So who's the mystery guest?
I can't see a mystery guest.
There's Richard, who's here. He'll be here in a second. There's myself, Mark. There's Phil, and there's Gary on the end. Hi, Gary. You all right?
He's had a bit of a weekend, by the look of it.
He's had a rough weekend. He's been on the sauce with RSW.
One of these great characters from the 1990s who's come back into fashion in the last few months. And
Who, Gary?
yeah.
Oh, that's a bit harsh. That's a bit harsh. Yeah, he's here anyway.
Sorry, Gary.
He's slightly slimmer anyways, Mr. Blobby, isn't he?
Unfortunately, he's on normal TV these days and he's going to get on the internet. So what can you do?
What can you do? Welcome along. This is 4020 Live as ever. Mr. Blobby is with us. He had a message for Mal Meninga, but we've had to edit it out after the English battered the Australians. So we know Legend here to tell us how good England are. We thought we'd get an Aussie in to tell us how poor the Aussies are. John Davidson joins us. I feel like we should clap him on. It's like a show when he's come out of the green room. Woohoo! Yes, there you go. I don't know whether it's a flattering thing or not that you've replaced Schoey or not. I don't know what
I thought you'd replaced Mr. Blob.
I don't know what that's saying about us, saying about you, really. But welcome along, John. Anyway, you all right?
Thank you. Yeah, very good.
Very good. Are you still banned from Lee?
I believe so. Who knows?
Do you get? Are you still on their email distribution list?
No, I'm not.
Oh,
no.
well, that's good news because in the last week we've had about 700 emails from Lee every time they sign a player. Many of which I've never heard of.
I think a Milkman's just sponsored them and they put a statement out.
Hey, don't criticise them.
No, I think it's brilliant. I think it's brilliant.
They are signing well. We're going to talk about the championship. You can get in touch on Twitter at 4020 Live. You get in touch on YouTube on the comments there. You can get in touch via Facebook as well. If that's how you want to get involved, you're more than welcome to do so. Keep downloading the old podcast. Numbers are going really well. We're really pleased and proud about that. There's only one place to start, isn't there? Richard, how did Blackpool go at the weekend?
It was all right. I didn't see any advertising for the summer bash because everyone's decided to go to Barcelona instead now. But yeah, I saw no rugby league people, no rugby league shirts, nothing. Sadly.
Okay.
But
bought a new jumper though.
bought a new jumper,
smart.
yeah, £5. So you can't knock that, can you? Nice.
Mansfield Marksman away kit.
He's blown in the entire wardrobe
Yeah.
budget of this show.
Well, I've got receipts because it's tax deductible, isn't it? Because I'm on TV, as you can see.
Very Melbourne Storm like, actually.
So yeah, Blackpool's Blackpool.
Very good.
It's a missed opportunity.
Did you do your reconnaissance for the bash?
I went
You
past
picked
the
your
stadium,
hotel.
Went past the stadium. I've seen the hotel, yes. Seen the trams are still cheap, and the rock's expensive. Obviously, Mr. Bobby's come back with me, so that was a successful mission.
Yeah.
And the Blackpool Tower's on the desk somewhere.
Yeah, you also brought another bit of absolute brilliance. Which,
when we're talking tat,
the people on Facebook, now our table of tat is now becoming legendary. Well, we have now got something genuine for the table of tat. Do I mean Brian Barwick or his book? I'm not sure. Brian Barwick wrote a book, and at the BBC, ITV and the FA, he was powerful and brilliant. He was the funniest man I ever worked with, says Des Lynham. Well, there goes
Des, yeah.
There goes Des going down in everyone's estimations. Brian wrote a book telling us how important he is, from chief executive of the FA, editor of Match of the Day, and we got 30 seconds on...
52.
52
if you include
seconds.
the obituaries.
Wow. 52 seconds on the BBC's biggest sporting programme of the year. Well done, Brian, I think. Thanks for that. What do we make of that?
I think he opened his little black book.
Yeah?
And closed
What
it
on
again.
page Z?
Closed it again.
Z. No, I've got no Z. So there you go, Brian Barwick's book, everybody.
Surely that's a bestseller.
Where was it, in the Pound book? Or
In Poundland, yeah. I mean, next time we see him at an RFL event, we should get him to sign it and auction it off. And we might make £1.50. I still haven't applied for our RFL accreditation yet, so...
Yeah. A lot of uproar over the weekend, especially yesterday. The Rugby League wasn't on the Sports Personality of the Year, despite the fact that our domestic TV partner has the rights to the game. Is that an outrage, or is that just what we expect from the BBC?
No, why would it be an outrage? There were a lot of sports that didn't get very much coverage. We have an overestimation of our importance. The flavour for most of the programme was international, which shows how important that is. The Catalan Dragons got a little cameo piece because they added an international dimension to the Challenge Cup, but we got no more or less than domestic football, domestic rugby union, a lot more than speedway and darts. we got what we deserve. We have to acknowledge the fact that we are a big minority sport. I genuinely don't see why people think half of the programme should be devoted to rugby.
Half, maybe 2.5 minutes would have been
But it wasn't 20. The most of the programme was around the 6 people who were nominated to be the designated personalities. One of them wasn't a rugby league player this time. We got no more.
This time we've only ever had one.
All right, one. Well, this time we've got no more, no less than virtually every other sport.
What do you make of it, John?
Well, I didn't watch it for starters, but
Well
I
done.
did see the outrage, and I saw a lot of boxing outrage about Tyson Fury not getting it as well. So I think the common theme is if you don't win anything, moan. But I think it's a bit of a nonsense, really.
Is
I
there
mean,
an
what is
Australian equivalent?
No. And what?
And you love sport.
Well, yeah.
Well, they used to when they were good at it. They're not so bothered about it now. There's a programme on about out of sandpaper or corky.
I think Mark Atherton gives that class pretty well.
Oh,
But I
thought that was muck in his pocket.
But I don't get the personality.
It's
Well, in a personality, is it?
Yeah.
again,
That's the
it's
thing.
invested.
I don't think Darren Jones is,
But it's
great to go and have a
invested with
fight
too much status. It's
Yeah.
the BBC's take on a year of sport. That's all it is. It's it's
Is
no
it
more, no
I
less.
put a Twitter poll on earlier and just said, look, is it time to get rid of it? And there's been quite a lot of votes on it. 74% have been it. It's had its day.
Yeah, that's possible. In the same way that question of sport has probably had its day.
Yeah, well,
I think it's harmless.
And what they tried to do this year was make it a little bit more immediate. You don't know who the people you're going to be voting for until the programme starts. Yeah. There was the biggest outrage was there was 15 minutes on the England football team not winning the World Cup.
Well, it was the same with that programme last week that I mentioned last week when they had the sporting review of the year, which this used to be, and then they turned it into a celebrity fest because the headline picture on the BBC website for most of the afternoon was Paloma Faith, who, as far as I'm aware, didn't win the Commonwealth Games.
She did open the proceedings with a song, though.
Yeah, not one of her own, though.
It was a tribute to Aretha.
Was it a tribute to the likes of John Terry? Well, anyway, and Tyson Fury, and Zach Hardacre. We've got our own.
You've set him off now. He's only been back 8 minutes.
Isn't the problem though? The week before that programme presented by Dame Jessica Ennis-Hill, and why the BBC chose her to present it, I don't know. When they're paying Lineker £2 million to literally do 1 day a week's work, there was no rugby league on that at all. That was the review of the year, in which most of that was not spent about 15 minutes talking about England being rubbish, but most of that was spent interviewing someone who won nothing at the Winter Olympics because they've got shares in her or something. We got nothing in a year in which the Catalan Dragons made history. More time was spent, no time was spent talking about rugby league, not domestic rugby union, in fairness, but they spent time on the Super Bowl, which I can't remember was particularly. Well, it's in January.
But again, it's that international dimension, isn't it?
On a domestic BBC programme.
Yeah, well.
It's,
I just think we invest too much.
We
in it.
do.
You either watch it or don't watch it.
Don't watch it.
If you're going to get upset about it, don't
Yeah,
watch
but my
it.
point is they are our domestic television partners, and we have no. Even if it's 2 minutes, it's a lack of respect. And this is what was going on about the BBC. Why are people so?
But it was more than horse racing. It was more than. There was no golf other than the Ryder Cup, which again was an international dimension to it. So.
Someone's actually said Phil's too close to the mic.
What?
I know, it's shocking. Sorry, Graham, I'll move mine a bit further forward.
Okay. I'm getting abused for not having my laces straight on my jumper. That must be a whole KR thing.
We were abused last week, weren't we, on Facebook for not looking smart enough?
Who
That's why I've
said
got
that?
the jumper on.
Who said that?
Someone on Facebook said you don't look smart enough. Put on proper telly.
Phil's the best dressed man in rugby league, apart from Ross
This is the
Eppensthal.
internet. It's a lawless world. Ofcom can't get us here. Oh no!
Is that some kind of challenge you've set out?
I left the cravat off. Talking of Hull KR,
Yes.
we have a gift.
Oh, we do, yes.
From the most hated man in rugby league. No,
Now-
not him.
Thanks to Sid. Now, we don't go asking for gifts. Now, I'm quite
This is
worried.
lovely of him.
Because well, you're saying it is lovely. You don't know what's in it.
No, it's lovely that he's gone to the trouble of wrapping up something, even if it's poisonous, and sending it through the post.
It's the season of seven poison.
You know, the only thing I'm going to say, it's not particularly Christmassy wrapping paper. It looks like somebody's found.
It looks like the opening titles of Wogan from the mid-80s.
Right, what we're going to do, we're going to have a quick poll on Twitter. So get this sent out now. Who should open it in case it's explosive?
Well,
Yeah.
Right?
It got past the sniffer dog downstairs.
Right.
There's no way to talk about your sister.
I know.
I mean, there's a flapjack there, there's mince pies, and there's this. No, Sid, we appreciate it. Sid is good value, I think.
He is.
He's everything this show's about. He's not frightened to have an opinion.
Yeah.
He's not always right, like this show quite often isn't. But he has an opinion, so we welcome that. And if it's anything illegal, Sid, Rich owns it.
The problem is, of course, you're not supposed to eat stuff sent into programs by listeners, because there was once a presenter on a radio station in London who was sent a load of donuts that were laced with LSD.
We'll eat them after the show, Sid.
The thing is, if Schoey was here, he would have eaten them all already anyway.
Can only improve the show.
Yeah. Very good. So you get that Twitter poll out. Who should open the box? Mr. Blobby or Schoey can be one of the things. Right, where do you want to... No, we've got to start. England beat Australia on Friday. Now, you lads were braver than I. I was going to go, but I watched the fantastic coverage on the Our League app, which worked great, no problem. It was good, the commentary was good, I enjoyed the game, the picture was fantastic. I took a picture of my dad watching it in the pub with on the phone. He was watching it having a beer. Went really well, and as did the game. I understand England win and win the series. What did you make of it, Phil? We'll get the winners' perspective first before we talk to the losers.
Fantastic game. England, I think, outplayed Australia in every aspect of it. Physically, they stood up to them. They had guys coming off the bench that made sure that never lessened throughout the 80 minutes. The outside backs were particularly impressive, stood up to guys that looked initially as though they might have trouble with them, but they didn't. Full-back from St Helens, Wellesby, looked as though he could play first team. Just an all-round really good performance. Scored a couple of lovely tries in the first half and then defended magnificently in the second. There was only one penalty in the second half. Win the series 2-0, deservedly so. And I think there's probably half a dozen you would look at and say they will get some first-team game time next year. Obviously, Cameron Scott's already had some. But Ethan Havard, prop with Wigan, look out for him. He looks really, really good.
Has he got fair hair?
No, that's Holroyd.
Oh, is it?
Holroyd came off the bench and
my dad just kept randomly shouting at the phone. It's like James Graham, that lad. He's like James Graham. I'm like, hang on.
I thought he was a young Mark O'Mealy. He was just getting right into everything. Yeah, he was really
carried the ball really well. It was really encouraging. If that is the last game of 2018, that's a great start to springboard us into 2019. Every one of the 17 made a contribution. I think they enjoyed playing at a rugby league, bespoke rugby league venue. The Aussies in particular really enjoyed the history around Headingley. Just a great night, really good night. The only mitigating factor for the Aussies was they clearly don't like playing in -3 temperatures. It's all part of their education, but they didn't adapt to the conditions as well as the English did. The English kicking game is really good. Harry Smith, who's just had a 3-year contract upgrade with Wigan this afternoon, deserves that. He moved the team around the field, and at hooker again, Corey Johnson. He's got all the enthusiasm and a bit of deception out of dummy half. It was just a really, really encouraging performance.
Are you worried, John? Schoey said we're coming to get you. We're even beating you, at the junior level now. We're in our back pocket.
Of course. Not worried at all, but I agree completely with what Phil said. I mean, I think the England Academy team have won, 4 series since 2002, so it's not that surprising, but they fully deserve the win. I didn't see the first test because I was on a train and the Wi-Fi didn't work, but the game on Friday, they just battered them, particularly in the middle. They won the ruck. They bullied the Australian team, and it just grew from there. And the Australian team got very frustrated. The English team got under their skin, and they couldn't cope. There was a fair bit of niggle, wasn't there? Yeah. It was almost a fight at half time. They really lost their composure and just made mistake after mistake, and the English team took advantage. And it was completely a dominant performance. The score should have been much more to the England Academy.
I think the good thing as well is that when England made a mistake, and a couple of times they were running the ball out of their own quarter, got smashed, knocked on, understandable, freezing cold hands, but the defence then was more than matched the mistake. Yeah. And I think in the past we've seen some English teams that will commit an error close to their own line, and you knew at some point they'd crack, but this mob didn't. They were very well disciplined, really well coached. Dave Elliott has done a fantastic job, assisted by Jamie Langley and James Ford. Just really, I suppose if there was one interesting point afterwards, it's the bulk of the England team is supplied by probably 3 teams, right? And for us to be, it was a fantastic result with some brilliant players whose names we will enjoy seeing as their career progresses, undoubtedly. But if we want to take this on and make it more sustainable, every club has got to contribute more to the England academy process. We need more players from Hull and Wakefield and Castleford and Warrington and Huddersfield had one in there. But the load needs to be spread so that the talent is coming through equally. Because at the moment, obviously the teams that made the grand final, Leeds and Wigan and Saints, who made the semi, are in advance of the others.
Martin's been on. He says, I couldn't help the feeling the Aussie team would have coped better in warmer weather. We can have that to our advantage, which is home advantage.
Yeah, but in 2 years' time, the England academy will tour down under, and they may well have to play in 46 degrees in Townsville. It's all part of your education. Absolutely.
If you're a professional, you've got to play to the conditions.
And John will tell you that Canberra, you can play in conditions of -3.
Or snow,
so, they did not adapt as well as the England players did, and I was going to say lost their cool, but the one thing they did have obviously was cool because it was freezing.
It was, but a good win. I mean, again, it's international rugby. It was a decent enough crowd there, I think, for a bitterly cold Friday night. Is there maybe some scope that this could have been played at another time, maybe around a bigger crowd, if you like?
Yeah,
is that maybe what we need to look at with that?
What would have been nice, having now seen the way the series has evolved, is that if they'd been curtain raised to the New Zealand Test games, then you would really, I think you'd have drawn more people in, but it would have had a wider impact. The fact that we're finishing the 2018 season almost in the middle of December, and quite a few teams are starting again in 12 days' time, you perhaps lose a little bit of that impact. But graft them on to bring them over a bit earlier, play them as the undercard to a Test series. Fantastic.
Yeah, good stuff. It's nice to beat Australia, John. Sure you'll agree.
No.
Okay.
I think what it did show, though, and again highlighted by netball winning the Team of the Year and the Sports Personality in the Moment of the Year, is
Beating
that
in the Hockey World Cup.
but there is a resonance between.
What's that?
Hockey.
Hold on.
We only care about women's hockey. Men's hockey doesn't count.
All right. Okay.
But that was England and Australia again, and that we are missing a trick by not playing Australia for at least another 2 years at senior level.
It's then a sad reality that a very decent enough crowd, 1,500 I think it was, wasn't there on Friday?
Officially.
More
than that unofficially.
Hold on.
You want to get that sorted out before the safety see if it comes through to the north.
No, it felt like more than 1,500.
I'm joking.
Where was everyone amassed?
South Stand and a few on the Carnegie.
The new South Stand.
Yeah.
It's very nice.
It is a hell of a ground.
It is, When it's completely finished, it's probably going to be the best ground in Super League.
It's just a shame that with obviously the interest in the game, 1,500 people there and plenty of people obviously watching on the app, however many we don't know. I should at this point, before I forget, to say thanks to Matt Horton for getting us the post-match stuff after every game.
Thank you for that.
And to Tony Adam, the Australian coach, for speaking to us after every game of the tour as well. Not Tony Adams.
And not crying.
And as well, that's true.
He seemed quite a decent guy from watching interviews, good
Brilliant.
good media presence.
After the game, there were the usual presentations, but there was a little bit more because it was the end of the tour. And there's a real camaraderie, not only between the two squads, but the Australian management was. I think they've just enjoyed the educational side of the tour, bringing the guys over, kept mentioning the fantastic hospitality they'd had, which is great. Really worthwhile for young men of up to 18 years of age to be in a tour environment, and I think we'll certainly see at least 3, 4 maybe of those Aussie schoolboys playing in the NRL in the not too distant future.
Yeah,
it's a shame that this wasn't more coverage of it in terms of media, in terms of the fact that on a certain national website there was a story about an NRL player being in trouble, but there was nothing about the England versus Australia Academy success.
We nearly had an awful moment of live TV then. I nearly knocked your laptop off.
Laptop
People are moaning they can't hear you.
They can't hear Phil. They can't hear me. I'm going to have a look in the desk in a minute. I was waiting because I was going to clip that bit out.
Roy said Gareth Ellis tips Cameron Scott to play full international at some point in his career. Any of the other lads tipped to make the grade? Well, we've seen Cameron Scott play Super League, and it was a tough introduction for him. But he did all right. What about the other boys? Are you expecting any? It's hard when we haven't seen him play in Super League. But
Harry Newman will play for Leeds this year. His footwork in the second half, bringing the ball away from defence, absolutely superb. I think there'll be a few. I think we'll see a few. the interesting thing is how many of them will be given sufficient game time now, because that's the next stage of their development. Do you send some of the bigger but younger forwards out now on dual registration, let them play regular rugby, build themselves up against men? Do you give them the opportunity to play 3 or 4 games in Super League in the knowledge that they might make mistakes, but you need them to, as again, part of their education? But it's a tough place to make a mistake. But yeah, I think certainly 2 or 3 of them. Where they fit in, I don't know. St Helens have got a fantastic backline, but they have to find the space for Wellesby. Even if it's only playing 2 or 3 games on the wing, he is ready to make his first team debut.
That's where reserves would come in quite handy for him to be playing, against proper pros, not academy football.
If we had enough of them across,
which we don't.
the sport.
Well, I don't know if anyone can hear me now because Rich has just been pressing the buttons. Turned me off. Tim, who sent me a controversial message last week, so we're lucky we haven't banned him. But he said Harry Smith will play for England or he'll eat his hat. So a confident shout from Tim.
At the moment, you'd say yes. Yeah, having seen him in those 2 test matches, you would say that he has got everything you need, but particularly a brilliant kicking game.
Alan wants to know if we're going to talk about the new Tier 4 division. I'm sure we will when the show comes. Timothy said, what do you think of Halifax's chances? We'll talk about that later in the show as well. Mary said, the sound's not so good. It's Richard.
See, as soon as I press something, people moan, and I press something, and it gets worse.
Yeah. What would be really funny is actually if you told them that ain't actually plugged into anything. Oh, it is, honestly, it is.
I mean, you could sack me, but I don't get paid, so...
Steve says, why not do a sound check 10 minutes before the show starts? Steve, we do these things. And now they can't hear us. What have you done?
I don't know.
Hello, everybody!
It's going to annoy everyone. Hello.
We did a sound check with Mr. Blobby and he was fine.
Yeah, Blobby was fine. Blobby was fine.
Everything's plugged in. Your mic's on. My mic's on now. Let's turn them off.
He's been boozing. He's had a WKD in Blackpool and the job's knackered.
What?
He had it on
Right,
Friday.
you're opening that now.
That
you're opening
all
that. If it blows up on you.
All that fat.
So there you go. We did a sound check, Steve. Obviously, someone came in and turned off the mics. Tim said it was just a joke. Tim, we know, mate. We're big boys. We like it. We're not bothered. We've survived. What, 5 years now? This show's survived with us 4 and associated guests. Just saying what we think.
We get, we've been...
And we encourage
and we appreciate
our listenership to
doing
do
the same thing.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's been a hell of a year.
Everything's fine now on the sound.
Yeah, that's going to turn it on.
Because he switched it on.
That's why Phil was so loud.
God,
why
we had Tom Maguire the other
Why
week. He was trying to sabotage the show. Andy and Sue have got a migraine now.
Let's go turn them on. That's why.
Yeah.
I don't know why they were off. They shouldn't have been off.
Stop blaming everybody else.
YouTube's fine.
I think he's been eating these.
Yeah.
He's been on these. The beer
Boozer pack of flavoured rock. Beer, wine, gin and tonic, vodka and orange whiskey. I think you've had some of these, haven't you, on the coach on the way
He's
back?
had about 4 packs. Anyway, the sad news is, I'm sorry to have to report this, the League Express reported it. Some pages dropped out of this, Phil. Good thing.
It's alright, it's only 75p this week.
Oh, is it? You got half price, did you?
Is the letters page in?
Hearn.
Oh.
Yes.
Hearn's role with the
Yes,
RFL
yes.
is on hold. Big picture with Ralph and Eddie. Here's my mate. It's on hold. Who would have thought it? Who would have thought it? Who would have thought
In the run-up
it?
to Christmas.
Hey?
Eddie could have let him down gently,
They've
couldn't
got
he?
flapjack and everything and
Hey?
tea and...
What's
bacon.
happening? Are you surprised?
Sent him a copy of Brian's book and he's not wrong.
What's happening, John? Why is Eddie not coming into rugby league? Why is Ralph letting us down
I think he
again?
probably didn't put a sugar in his tea the last time I met up in the Hilton.
Must have scratched his back the wrong way.
Well, Eddie's been over at the Garden. He's been at the Canelo fight. He's a busy man. He was at Bramall Lane with Kel Brook last week. I saw him there. Yeah.
By the way, that's the worst performance at Bramall Lane for a while, or wherever he fought him. Where did he fight?
The Sheffield Arena.
Stunk the place out, didn't he?
I don't want to cast aspersions.
Yes, you do.
But hang on, this in the paper
That's why
today.
you're here.
We don't talk to the Hearns anymore. And on Saturday night, someone chucks a pint over a Michael Van Gerwen. Where was Ralph? Where was he? Who was it? We don't know. He got chucked out, and now we're not talking.
So come on, Eddie Hearn not getting involved now. I mean, this was like the worst
Shocking.
political skullduggery from Ralph. Gets a picture of him and Eddie Hearn as he's going to get the job. Gets the job. By the way, how good would it have been to see Ralph have to go through the apprentice interview process to get his job? How good would that have been? Seriously, how good would that have
Who did the
been?
interview process?
What do you mean? Oh no, for
The
Ralph.
RFL, yeah, not bloody Claude and whatever. No, mate, them fellas.
I think that's the man who wrote a book, a very best-selling book.
I think when we got invited to that media day, I think those people did it, didn't they? But anyway, we digress. It's not happening. I mean, the RFL, I said last week, John, they're not fit for purpose at the moment. That's quite a strong thing to say, but that's how I feel about them. I think they're lurching from one disaster to another at the moment, and this is not a disaster because again, anyone ever thought it would happen, but it's another mark
It's a
against
PR disaster, isn't
it is, isn't it? Yeah, it is. So what do we think about it?
I think it's not surprising, is
It's
it?
a non-story.
Yeah, it was exactly what we thought it was. It was dangling a carrot out in front of everyone. Look at this over here, shiny magic trick, and then what's actually happening over on the other hand is nothing's going on. I mean, I can't see why the Hearns, with their track record in terms of individual sports with individual athletes, they're not going to have the control that they would have with Super League teams or players, why they would get involved.
Okay. What do you...
I think on the plus side, Tony Adams coming in is a positive as president of the Rugby League. I think a few people got the wrong end of the stick and thought he was running the joint. But the president is a predominantly ambassadorial and ceremonial post, and he immediately got coverage that we can't normally get.
Yeah.
The Sun newspaper is not renowned for putting Rugby League on the back page, and it did have Tony Adams' appointment right next to Manchester United's latest stumbling in Europe, which can only be a good thing. Being on the back page,
is it not how we follow that up? Is it not how we follow that up now with Tony?
I think that you have to make him available. I think at the moment, at least a couple of people have asked for interviews with him, and he's not in a position to do them. He needs to, in an ambassadorial capacity, at some stage, do that. He'll obviously be meeting the teams at Wembley for the Challenge Cup, so that raises the profile of that event straight away. I suspect there will be other occasions where we've seen Andy Burnham this year that if you put Tony Adams, even going to Blackpool on the bash, it can only be a good thing. And what he actually said about the game was extremely complimentary. And the spillover of that is that you then get other footballers talking about it on a programme to do with football, not to do with Rugby League. And you get national radio stations ringing up saying, can we have quarter of an hour on the fact that Tony Adams is now involved in the sport? Well, that's the kind of publicity we genuinely need, not this face stuff with the Hearns that it would, when you've got something to announce it. If you haven't got something to announce, I don't want to see a picture that you've had tea with somebody.
Yeah. I mean, we saw these footballers coming out. Surely now the RFL should be saying to them, right, Craig Bellamy was the prime one. Craig, we need you to come to a game. Can you tell us when you can come up, and we'll get you to a game, and make sure it's on the telly that it's shown he's there watching it. You know,
invite him to the next Welsh national team game.
And he was doing it on a Sky Sports
answers on a postcard
platform.
when that is.
No, I think we know actually.
No, because they're not
Yeah.
The other thing about the football is that they were on a Sky platform, and we are on a Sky platform. It shouldn't be too difficult to put the two together. And celebrity endorsement is what every sport needs at the moment, whether we like it or not. Tony Adams is a huge name. And I think thinking outside of the box a little bit to appoint him. So whoever came up with that, huge congratulations.
It was Ralph. Ralph.
Well, and if he did, then
well done, Ralph.
that is balanced by
well done, Ralph.
the Hearn
One black
Farrago.
mark, one good mark. Yeah. We're back where we were last week.
Would it be fair for me to say, in the week he's had in the role, even though he's done nothing, he's had a more of a positive impact on the sport than the previous president, who did absolutely nothing. Who again was a politician, and I think we need to get away from people who. Andy Burnham is from Leeds, clearly a rugby league fan, but he is seen first and foremost in the world as a politician, and all our opinions of politicians of every persuasion at the moment is not greatly high.
No,
and yes, I know that Tony Adams has had a background outside of his exploits on the football field, but in some respects, the fact that he has now worked with 400 rugby league players.
Did that not frighten you when you heard that number? I thought, wow, that is a lot. I wouldn't have said it had been that many. That is a hell of a lot of players.
which says something about professional sport, and we won't be the only sport. I'm sure he's had 400 jockeys and maybe rugby union players through his door as well. But the other thing that I think is really important is it elevates the mental health issue, but it also puts rugby league in the vanguard of that as well as a sport that is trying to deal with it, possibly better and with more options than other sports, which is not a bad thing, I don't think.
Good stuff. So yeah, good news. Well done to Ralph on that one.
What I didn't
We'll
understand
clip
was
that out because we might never use that phrase
a
again.
lot of rugby league fans were anti the Tony Adams appointment.
Yeah, look,
Why?
I don't
I mean,
get
that's
it.
like-
I don't get it. I
He
don't.
shakes hands with people and wears a chain. It's
But he was at the grand final last year. He may not know who should be England's left centre.
that doesn't matter.
But
I don't know who you're.
But the quote that he gave when he was appointed about the character and quality of people who play rugby league,
He has been drinking.
He has.
He's been drinking.
he has, is better than most of the PR we've had in the recent past.
Yeah, completely.
Who would people want instead? Some generic rugby league personality who did all moan about because he'd be biased towards Wigan, stroke Leeds, stroke St Helens, stroke Warrington, stroke Wigan.
Short way.
Stroke Warrington. No one's biased.
I would imagine
Get
in
everything.
Australia that would have some resonance, that a footballer that they have heard of is now involved in rugby league, even if it's in an ambassadorial capacity. That is a story that the Australian media would report. Had it been somebody concerned with rugby league, they probably wouldn't have.
Chris has asked how much he gets paid for being president. I'm sure it's not hundreds and hundreds of
No,
thousands.
I
of
don't.
pounds.
I don't think. I think it's a voluntary position. He might get his exes,
Yeah. Well,
So what?
but it's not costing the game anything. And already the PR that we've had.
someone would be doing.
Who would you rather have, Tony Adams or Brian?
But he's got a black book.
Can we allow to throw this out the window?
You can if you want. Well, I don't know if we should throw books out the window. That's probably a
No.
bad thing in a book.
No.
See, we'll put it on Phil's shelf, see if anyone buys it.
No, we won't. Don't want to sully the
I
Christmas.
was going to
stock.
say, they'd have to change his sign. Quality books for sale. It
We have
says
actually got-
outside.
Guardians of Knowledge.
We have got a
And
quality
Brian.
book on the table of tap today.
We have.
People should buy for their Christmas presents.
Yes,
What's it called? The Struggle and the Dairy.
it's the.
It's almost like this show comes from a bookshop where we have access to books.
There you go, you can hold it up.
All right, I'll hold it up. You talk about it.
Well, I don't know much about it, but it's the remaking of French Rugby League. You know, French Rugby League, right, was ruined by the Nazis. You remember the Nazis? They're
Yeah.
back. They're on the telly. I've seen them. And they nicked all the Rugby League gold and stuff and put it in a shed and never gave it back. And banned Rugby League.
Gave the grounds to another sport.
Yeah. Can you guess which one, listener?
Who knew Hitler was a Union fan?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Hitler. Ceausescu in Romania. Big Rugby Union people.
Mao, German Mao.
German Mao. Not Kim Jong-un, though. He's Rugby League, as we know. And
Yes.
so the French Rugby League's had to rebuild from the position of weakness. And look, they've won the Challenge Cup. I'm sure there's more to it than that.
In the
That's pretty
1950s,
crazy.
in the 1950s, they went to Australia and produced a brand of rugby league that even the Aussies had not seen before. Bit like 1982 over here when the Aussies came, and we're getting 65,000 watching them at the Sydney Cricket Ground. Everybody fell in love with the way the French played. They came back. They were feted at Marseille when they got off the ships and everything. And then, as the title suggests, had to go through another period of struggle and re-emerge now with the Dragons winning the Challenge Cup and going to Barcelona and possibly setting a crowd record for the competition.
LA.
But more than that, it's written by Mike Rylance, who is the absolute doyen of French rugby league. It's the follow-on to the Forbidden Game, which some people may have read about, the disillusion in the Second World War. Picks it up from when the game starts again, goes through its trials and tribulations, and obviously Richard is a huge fan of Mike because his dad played for Wakefield.
And wrote the
Wrote this.
latest definitive Wakefield history.
Are we looking back, as we probably should do? It is the end of the rugby has actually finished. It starts again on 26th of the month, but it has finished. Should we be looking back at the Dragons winning as the greatest thing that probably could have happened this year? What do you reckon, John?
Ooh, that's a big call.
Well, pretty good that we backed him at 9-1. That was quite good.
You did, yeah. It'd have to be up there. It's a history. It was history making, wasn't it? I mean, I don't think anyone gave them a chance in hell, considering the way they limped out of the £1 million game the year before and started this season. So you look at them now with Sam Tompkins coming on board and Matty Smith. You think they've got to be top 5, certainly in the top 5. Otherwise, they're underachieving. So yeah, I would agree. I have it under.
I think that afternoon was fantastic for rugby league, and with the greatest respect to Warrington fans, it was to their credit that they stopped and cheered the Dragons.
It was great. I mean, I was in the stadium,
it was
rather
significant.
than the press bit, and the atmosphere was really good where I was.
Yeah.
It was excellent.
And even afterwards, when small pockets of French fans were walking down Wembley Way and the surrounding areas where the shops are now, they were being stopped and congratulated by fans of various different jersey colours, and it was there was something about it was the beginning of a new dawn, possibly for the game. Opens opportunities that I think more importantly than how they do next year is that they are going to Barcelona. I think that's massive for the sport.
We need that
can
to
cash
be
in
the
on
biggest Super League crowd, and I want that then to put some pressure on the teams here to say we want to beat that.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, I remember when the Bulls were at their peak, there was a big thing about who's going to get the biggest crowd. I remember it was against Leeds, wasn't
That's
it?
right, yeah, just 24,000.
And they got it, and the atmosphere was unbelievable.
And then Wigan and Saints beat it.
Yeah, but maybe that's what we need now.
Yeah,
and you know,
absolutely.
marketing a game to say, right, we're not bothered about the game, or we want we're going for a big crowd. We want you to come and support the game, and I think that'll be a really good thing.
Oh, but people are moaning because it's only going to look rubbish because there's going to be no one there. Because people are idiots.
Yeah, look, I think it'll be
Why
the biggest
is
Super
there
League crowd
nobody going to be there? If there are 30,000 people there, which means the stadium will be a third full, it will still be the biggest crowd we've had for a domestic Super League game.
Yeah, it will. Peter felt for Steve McNamara on Spotty. It's a great achievement, and the BBC didn't even speak to him.
They stood next to him, though.
Did he wave?
You could see him.
Very good.
Oh.
Very good. But no, looking back, I think that's one of the big things. One thing that we asked as well, I want people to start getting stuck into on social media, on Twitter, at Forty20 Live. You can get in touch via YouTube, via the Facebook. There's this big swap story going around that was Ikehihifo for Wardle, and now we're in for Tuli Talanoa has been thrown into the mix. So I want to ask the question, if you could take one player from every club in Super League, who would you take? Who would you take?
And swap them around.
No, you can have one, and then they can have one of yours.
Right.
So you've got to get the best one you can. So who would you take from Leeds, Rich?
Did I say it from Leeds?
Yeah.
What, on last season?
Probably Matt Parcell. But that's
Would you?
But,
You wouldn't have Watkins
well, yeah. But,
or a Hurl?
yeah.
You wouldn't have
Well, I've not
Richie
seen
Marler?
Holland yet. Adam Cuthbertson. Didn't we do that thing where at the end of last year where he was the only player who would get in the Wakefield side or something?
Yeah, something like that.
I don't have to think for a bit longer. But,
Yeah.
Oh, Jack Walker, because you can make... Mind you, we've got a load of fullbacks.
Yeah. What about you, John? Who would you take? If you could have a pick of Leeds, who would you say, right, we'll take them?
Yeah, I think Parcell's a good shout, or Jack Walker. Yeah.
Right. Rich? Sorry, Phil, who would
Who would
you
you
take
take from Leeds, yeah?
Who would I? Which player would you, if you were in charge at Wigan? I know you love Wigan. The listeners tell us every week.
I don't mind Wigan at all. I guess again it depends on where you would need a player in your team, but I'm waiting for a full season out of Stevie Ward because I still think that potentially he could be one of the most exciting players in the game in his position if he could be injury free.
I'd take Watkins. I still am not convinced we've seen anywhere near his potential yet.
Well, the word coming out,
put him in a team that's going to create some. He's going to score by the bucket.
He's ahead of schedule for his rehab.
Good.
It looks as though he's going to play it in his testimonial game against Castleford in the middle of January, but apparently he is extremely lean at the moment. The injury has meant that he's the quickest player in the Leeds squad at the moment.
I think he's going to have an amazing year. Martso said the same thing.
I think the pressure's off him a little bit as well because how do you defend against Leeds if you've got Hurrell on one side and Watkins
that's what I mean.
on the
You
other?
put him in a side that and let's be fair, we can be critical of Leeds. They're not a fluent. They don't. I know it's all off the cuff, but you think you play into a structure. You could put him in some other teams, and he would have scored a lot more tries than he does at Leeds. And
I think John will tell you about Dave Furner's way of coaching. It will be to release his centres.
The interesting thing, I was at Headingley today, this morning, talking to a few players, and the talk is that there is a change in attacking style that Furner has brought that in. So it's going to be, and the players, Jack Walker and Matt Parcell, were very excited about what that's going to entail for them.
Yeah,
particularly.
No, I think,
so
like you said, I think
will
there's
be,
more to come.
Yeah, and
more
I think
to come.
Dave Verner's very, very drilled and very astute in how he coaches and what he brings. So could be quite exciting times for Leeds.
And he was the attacking coach at Souths last year, and they scored more points than any other team.
Yeah.
So
It's looking good.
Alistair sent us a long message over the weekend, having caught up on the podcast. I listened through last week, so there's a few comments about Wigan not spending the salary cap next year, but they didn't spend the salary cap this year either, whereas they are upgrading a lot of their youngsters onto better long-term deals. I think one thing a lot of people who aren't Wigan fans may not realise is that Wigan under-19s have now won 9 finals in the last 11, he thinks, and in the last 2 years have been especially dominant. I think the lack of recruitment won't matter due to the quality of youngsters coming through. It does go on for a while, so apologies, Alistair, I'm not going to read the whole thing out, but basically he says they've recruited okay, and the youngsters knocking on the door coming in.
Well, I hope the youngsters get a chance, because I think a lot of those under-19s have ended up playing at other clubs.
Yeah.
So brilliant that they're bringing them through. Great that they're spreading the talent, but they need to give some of them a longer run in the first team. Is it Josh Woods has re-signed this year for today for 3 years, but he's going out on a year-long loan at Lee. So
Well, he probably needs that as a half back.
and I hope so. I just hope that somebody like Nick Gregson, who's also re-signed with Lee, was when he made his debut for the Wigan first team. This is a kid that's come through our system. Big things expected of him.
Graham's complaining. He says, "Okay, this isn't Rhinos TV. This is not.
Oh,
This is not an official
Graham.
broadcast of the."
well, who do you
Henry
support then?
Broadcasting
Who do
Corporation.
you tell us who you? It's up
No,
four
I've spoken
clubs.
about Leeds.
No, we don't even like Leeds. In fact, we don't like Leeds today, do we, John?
Not at all.
There you go. You see, this show does not like Leeds. We do really. If anyone's listening, Alex Walmsley back. That's good, isn't it? I think that's the best news I've heard all week. Alex
Brilliant.
Walmsley.
Brilliant.
Pleased for him as a person.
That is going to, I think, strengthen the thought that St Helens are justifiable favourites for next year. Because not only have they brought in 3 new players, but he will be like a new player.
He got
Brilliant.
injured. It was about week 3 or something. It was really
Yeah, he
early,
barely
wasn't it?
played.
At Warrington, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I remember him getting injured.
So fantastic that he's back. Brilliant for Saints. Great for England. Possibly good for Great Britain if we have a tour.
I thought Saints handled that pretty well as well. If I'm honest,
Yes.
the whole, they've handled the whole media thing quite well. I like that, and he's a nice guy, isn't he? We know, obviously Schoey found him, as he tells us every week.
Yeah, he's his agent.
Yeah, but it is good. Seriously, it'd be great to see him back. And
Graham's a Fev supporter. Graham, Leeds are your feeder club. Oh no.
this ain't Rhinos
Can I ask
TV.
Graham-
Do you
can I
shout
ask
that
Gra-
when you go to Fev on a Sunday?
Can I ask?
Oh, what's all these bloody rhinos for?
Can I ask Graham a question?
Ask Graham a question.
Is he happy that he's got an Australian coach that nobody's heard of next year?
That's a fair point.
We
Should
talked
we-
about this on another
Should
podcast.
we
didn't
allow Australian coaches in the Championship?
No, I don't think
Particularly ones who have no proven track record.
you should. I don't think you should.
I don't think he should.
No.
But it'd be interesting to know what Graham, as a Featherstone fan,
If he
thinks.
was a player, would he have got a work permit?
I don't know how he's got mentioned
No,
that anyway.
I don't
How, who has sanctioned his work?
Are we back to
permit?
the Graham Tooby situation? He's going to be
Jeff.
Jeff
Tooby.
He's on holiday in
Graham
Featherstone.
Tooby was his assumed name to try and get a ring to you. I'm
And,
joking.
and how does Graham think 3 Papua New Guineans are going to go down at what was Post Office Road?
The Chris Miles Stadium.
Look, I think though. I ain't got. We sort of Ron Smith, didn't we? Nice guy, didn't know about the competition, and ultimately, if you're going to be critical, that's what cost the Bulls.
Yeah,
that lack of
100%.
knowledge stopped them getting to 4. Whether that just brought forward what might have happened afterwards, we'll never know. But I think it's a gamble, isn't it? You see,
definitely.
Richard
Do you know him?
Marshall
No.
coaching.
See, if you haven't heard of him, then he clearly isn't. top notch.
I don't
You
necessarily
know all
agree
the
with that, but
Australians.
we talked about this on Friday night. I think maths is not my strong point, but there's 6 Australian coaches in Super League this year. You've got Sheens, Price, Holbrook, Lamb, Verner,
Huddersfield.
Wolford. Yeah, so that's the most for a number of years. Am I wrong? And I know what Mr. Blobby, if he was here, would say. He'd be against it.
Yeah.
Schoey loves Australians. But,
He does.
yeah.
Cheese.
But I
He
agree
loves
with
them losing.
He does. He's not bitter at all. But I agree with Phil's comment. I mean, surely championship clubs shouldn't be looking like. I
Or
think,
should it count as one of their quota?
Yeah.
Is that how you do it?
Yeah.
To say, well,
Yeah.
look, you know, you
Well, I
can have an
think-
extra.
And in fact, in some respects, that should count as a quota in Super League as well. If you make it, I mean, I think all those
That's a
six
good
that you've
point.
named are real top quality coaches. You can see why clubs
Well,
have gone
yeah.
for them. I think there are people probably in the systems of each of those clubs that will benefit from those guys being there. But yeah, it should count on your quota.
Chris said Cass had unknown Dave Woods in 2007, came top and gained promotion.
Yeah.
Then went on the BBC.
Bit hard.
Dave Woods, who got bitten by his dog as a policeman.
He did, yes. That was a funny story. He
It's not
told
that
us,
Dave Woods.
as a policeman, he said, me bloody dog bit me. He says, oh, well, there you go.
Sounds like a Simpsons episode. I
Yeah.
Has the new season
But I would,
started? Oh, sorry.
I would say Dave Woods is still over here, but he's not coaching. So yes, he did that job on that specific day.
He
And-
did, where else
and
did
he did
go?
okay.
He got a Gateshead. Where did he go?
think. Whitehaven or Workington, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's it.
But did he do a job that an up-and-coming English... You know, Dave Elliott, we've just seen, has coached the England Academy to dual success over the Australian schools. He's not a professional coach. Now, it may be that he doesn't want to be, but he clearly is a very good... Where is somebody like him going to get an opportunity if overseas coaches without pedigree...
It's a good point.
brought
I
over
think they should count on the quota. I do think that. I think that's a very good suggestion.
And he may well win the division with them.
He may well do.
And it may be the best and most astute signing Featherstone have made, but I'm just not sure we should have a... You know, West Wales need something, but I don't know if they need an Australian coach. You know, if there's so much talent within the Principality on and off the field, then are we denying somebody the opportunity because we're bringing in a short-term fix?
After the new rugby league season started, there's a pre-season friendly.
Yes.
Because Coventry Bears
Yes.
beat the Prison yesterday, 48-12. They didn't have conversions, which is a good idea. To get rid of conversions, waste time.
Were they prisoners or...
Prison officers.
Prison officers, right.
Yeah, but they had to play it behind closed doors, obviously. It's not like the episode of Porridge where your man ends up digging up Ellen Road. Oh, that's great.
What was that famous film as well where...
Mean Machine.
Mean Machine. It wasn't that.
No. Plays from Essex, London, Leicester, Ireland. I'm just reading these. Bournemouth. And there's some other places I've never heard of. Places. Bristol, Leicester, Swindon, Birmingham, Derbyshire, Coventry. Got some plays from Coventry in Coventry.
Yeah.
More plays from Coventry in Coventry than some Super League clubs have from their own places. So, expansion not working.
Well, the new 14-team Southern Conference would
Conference.
say it possibly... it's back on the agenda.
There's one division that's got 100 teams and one that's got 3.
Do we, and I've raised this before, right? Do we need to make the rugby league like football, where it's a pyramid, and we put these teams in and say, right, if you win that league, you will go to that league? And I know people say, oh, the amateurs, they don't want to play in League One. Well, you will play at a level where your club is right to play at.
Absolutely.
You know, I would imagine the amateurs aren't going to go out and spend 200 grand they haven't got on trying to buy a team.
Not Salford City.
No. Or do what other teams have done in the lower leagues and try and buy their way out, you know, like Keighley, who spent money they didn't have and then bust the club.
See,
Why do that?
What's interesting is in the West Riding, definitely not the Yorkshire Cup, we've got Honslet Parkside, who will be playing against semi and full-time professional clubs. It'd be really interesting to see how they go, what they get out of it, whether they then say, well, looking at our future development over the next 5 or 10 years, we would like to be in that semi-professional environment. Why deny them? But I do think you have to regionalise it, like the Southern Conference, because the tyranny of distance is a killer.
Well, they have that, don't
at
they?
community
National
level.
football, National North, National South, and then you go to the National League if you get out of that. Glenn said it's up to whoever to employ whoever. You're talking rubbish, Mark Wilson. Fair enough, Glenn. If he gets them promoted and wins the league, brilliant. Well done to him. Does it look a gamble? You know, do a poll. Would you rather have Richard Marshall from Halifax or this guy from I'd probably rather have Richard Marshall if it's my team. You know, Kieran Purtle, someone like that. That's just my opinion. It doesn't matter. It's all about opinions, Glenn. Yeah? But I do think the pyramid is the way to go. And I think then, when you get teams that go bust, say, I'll tell you what, well done, fellas. You're going right to the bottom. And if the people there are that passionate they want to run the club, then you can start again at the bottom. And hopefully we'll see you come back.
I think the RSW, when he was on the bus coming back from Blackpool, tweeted something relevant to this debate, that We now have a community competition called the National Conference League that isn't national.
Yeah.
And we now have a Southern Conference League that is national but isn't allied to the National Conference League. And that's the way, yes, let's have a pyramid, but can we all work together?
Well, that's what I mean.
There's
Is that
some
what-
logic,
yeah, but
there's
is
some
that now
logic
what we
to
need
the
to do?
pyramid.
Working together, Phil. please.
And now, without being rude, now the RFL don't have to worry about Super League. Do they now need to say to Barla or whatever, or right guys,
Come on board.
this is where we need to go
Yeah.
now. We want to make out because surely if the non-league is stronger, then that will make the league
the base
stronger.
is stronger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And is that not what we're after?
Definitely.
You've had abuse on one Fed fan. Well, assuming Glenn's a Fed fan anyway.
Yeah.
And we know Graham is because he's told us. He's
This
not
is
happy.
not Fev TV, you know.
Yeah.
Got all
You've got
Fev
your own-
fans
you've got your
moaning
own
at
TV.
me.
You've got your own TV
Yeah,
channel
get on
with
your own TV
Joanna the
show.
cakes and stuff. Graham says he's not happy. He's had to Google most of the new Aussie players. I mean, in fairness, I do that every year. I agree with the whole legend. Oh, dear me. Journeyman and unknown spoiling our game. Off in the bath now. Have a good bath, Graham.
Have a good bath, Graham.
I think the good thing for Featherstone, if I was a Rovers fan, would be the reuniting of Brett Delaney and Ryan Bailey. I think that will cause some teams in the Championship some trouble.
There are so many possible answers to that statement that probably would be on the Christmas podcast after we've had a few pints. Yeah, look, hey, coaches, all coaching appointments can be questioned.
Absolutely,
And let's be
100%.
fair, all coaching appointments don't work because all coaches get sacked.
Well, the interesting one at the moment is Wigan. You know, because they have appointed a coach for a year. You've done a couple of pieces on Mr. Lamb.
Yeah,
Wants
good chat with him.
Wants to make changes at Wigan, but the changes he can make can only really apply for 1 year, and then we may get a load of changes again. So,
Yeah.
you know, every club must go down the route it needs to go down. He seems to be saying all the right things, but what can he implement in one season? In the knowledge that he's
a very personable, you know, different, I guess, very different character to Sean Wayne. That he's probably easy to deal with media-wise. You know, very, very, very sociable, very amiable. But you're right. I mean, he admits when I spoke to him, and he wants to be a head coach in the NRL. So this scene is essentially an audition, and then hopefully from his point of view, he'll get an NRL gig in 2020. And he's done a long apprenticeship. I think 13, 14 years. But you're right. I mean, the signings and everything's sort of got to be signed off by Sean Edwards.
Yeah, who's
so
going to inherit the squad or any
even
issues
you
it
would
may
think
have.
the style that they play has to have some influence from Sean Edwards, because you're not going to just do something for 1 year and then start again. There has to be some continuity. So it's an interesting appointment. It may be the best appointment of all time. It could backfire on them. So we're not criticising the person. We're just saying, should there be overseas coaches in the Championship? And my preference would be that there shouldn't be, because I think there are some great English coaches who would be deserving of a proving opportunity at that level. That should be a first choice.
I think that the big benefit too in Liam's favour, much like Fernand's, is that he's actually played for that club.
Yes,
He's lived
he
over it.
understands
He
it.
knows
Yeah.
what it's like to play, you know, in -3 or at the style. While we point to Jeff Tuvey before, had never played or coached over here and had no idea of what he was getting into.
And was coaching at a level way below.
He wasn't
his-
coaching; he was on holiday.
observing
he was
on
on
his
holiday.
holiday.
He had a season ticket for the.
He used to walk around the village where I live in his shorts. So we're obviously enjoying his holiday with Jeff anyway.
Was he a postman?
No.
They,
Glyn
do you know,
said-
they wear shorts in all weather.
Yeah,
And
Glyn's a
hats
Leaf.
off to a postman.
Glyn's a Leaf fan. Actually.
Apologies, Glyn.
I'm really happy with local lad John Duffy being our coach. There
Yes.
you go.
I think what Lee are
I
doing.
don't think Featherstone are, but
Yeah.
What Lee are doing is the alternative to what Featherstone are doing, and
Yeah.
that everyone who is on their staff and virtually every player they are signing has a connection with Lee. I do think that they are rebuilding on the basis of going local, and it'd be interesting to see how Featherstone and Lee go this year,
Yeah, it
because
will.
it's very contrasting ways of going about your business.
It will. Alan has been. I know Alan. He says, "Stop offering Richard Marshall out to other clubs. We're more than happy with him at the Mighty Facts."
He's doing a
I
great
think there's too many people, Alan, talking about what a great job he's doing. And I don't mean just us here on this show. Yeah, John Keir couldn't have been any more complimentary about him, about the job he's done with those kids at Halifax. People will be noticing. The big question now, like you said, is when does a Richard Marshall or the like of Danny Ward, for instance, when do they get one of the big gigs?
Well,
Is that going to happen?
Danny Ward's forced his hand and got,
He's got in, hasn't he?
But
Yeah.
I think we've seen since Daryl Power that the only way you get a job is by being an assistant at a Super League club.
Well, someone's asked that on
yeah.
YouTube. Andrew saying, is Steve Price re-signing for Warrington good? And how long will Andrew Henderson wait around? Surely good enough to be a Super League head coach.
Well, would Featherstone have been better offering the job, should he have wanted it, to somebody like Ryan Sheridan, who clearly has done a fantastic job under Daryl Powell at Castleford? But at some point, maybe he or a Danny Orr want the opportunity to see if they can be a head coach.
Yeah. Look,
don't know.
some assistant coaches are good at being assistant coaches
yeah,
and not good at
exactly.
being the main man. We see this in football, don't we? People, the guy who just got the bin at Reading, what is it, Clement?
Yeah, Paul Clement. Yeah.
Paul, Ancelotti's assistant, wins everywhere they go, bearing in mind they're the best teams in the world, then has to do the gig himself and can't do the results would suggest he can't do the job himself. So
I think James Ford, who is somebody we have a lot of time for on this programme, always have, and was fantastic after the academy game on Friday night, because obviously he's part of that coaching staff. You'd say that if you're going to pick one young British coach who was earmarked for perhaps going at a higher level, and let's hope it's with York. No problem if he's coaching York and they're winning Super League, but you would think that that's a while off yet. At what point will he get an opportunity at a higher level? I'd like to think he will.
Rick said if Marshall does move on, the club will stick with its ethos of promoting from within, and you'd maybe see Simon Grix in a head coach role, giving another young British coach a chance before any Aussie. I think the facts are that teams that have done it have got faith that it works. You know, there is an ethos at Halifax now. There is a way that club operates, and I think they would happily back themselves to get the right person. And you know, Terry and Denise have said it. Well, I'm pretty sure Mark Campbell will have done a bit of research on Ryan Carr.
I'm sure he will
before setting him on. Telfeld to ask David Ferner about him. Well, we probably will do in due course, but it's a gamble. We talk about players coming in, and a lot of times coaches say you shouldn't really judge an overseas player in year one because they need to settle in. There's a lot of things you're not aware of. It's hard. It's got to be the same for coaches as well, and they're not just responsible for themselves, they're responsible for everybody else as well.
I'm not even sure that we're saying it's a gamble or not. What we're saying is, should divisions below Super League be a point, yes, could be part of the quota, but should the governing body be encouraging clubs to put forward work permits for overseas players when part of the remit of the game as a whole, not an individual club,
that was my thing. If he was a player, would he have got in? I don't think he would.
But I genuinely don't know how he's got a work permit. I don't know how his career to date in the NRL... well, he's not been in the NRL, has he? He's been in Queensland Cup.
Yeah.
How he has got a work permit.
I hope from a Fev point of view, I like Fev.
I hope they win the division and he's brilliant.
A lot of time for their owner. Hope they win.
But all we're saying is, should a Championship / League One club be allowed to appoint an overseas coach for the good of the game?
You look at Fev as an example. They had John Sharp, who won them games, got them in the top 4, but didn't win the games the right way. So they got a guy that they thought would do it the right way, who ultimately didn't get them in the top 4 and has since walked out on the club. And now they're going for someone we've never heard of. So they've gone from all 3 parts there. It's interesting, isn't it? It's a tough one. It's a really tough one.
A couple of things to round up from YouTube. John, you can't talk about that story last week that you were going to talk about because you can't talk about it yet.
I don't want to get sued.
No.
Yeah,
Probably not.
Preferably not.
It'll come out.
It's close to Christmas. Probably not a good idea.
And Andrew said...
Could ruin Christmas.
Just put your Schoey mask on and say... it's my understanding, right?
Speak behind this.
There he is, the
They could be
legend.
sued.
Let's blame Noel Edmonds. Andrew says, since Ralph was in the league expression that the plan with Matchroom fell through and the Challenge Cup sponsor fell through, could it be assumed that Matchroom was set to take over the Challenge Cup? Possibly. And would it be good for me if we did give them the Challenge Cup to Merton? And I think we said previously, yes, it would have been. I think that the interesting thing with the sponsor issue, and I can't remember where I read it now, but there was speculation that perhaps the new sponsors of the Six Nations have paid less than the previous sponsors of the Six Nations. But they never mentioned any numbers.
50% value.
There you go. And so if that global international sporting event, which gets a lot of media attention, has lost that much of sponsorship, then we have to be more realistic about our competition as well.
Sponsorship market in general is struggling. Yeah.
So
It's only going to get worse when betting companies are restricted to what they can and can't do in play, and they'll have less money to throw around. Who are our major sponsors at the moment?
Can we bring back tobacco?
Don't say that when me and Mark are doing it.
But it's true.
It's true. I know.
Okay, fair dues.
Sorry.
Jules has said thoughts on Jamie Peacock returning to Leeds. Phil,
New job.
you probably love that.
I think if you were a company and he turned up on your doorstep, wanted to talk to you about coming on a journey, you'd be prepared to listen to him. I think Danny Maguire was earmarked for a very similar role until he, understandably and quite rightly for his financial future, moved on to Hull KR. I think the plan was he would finish his playing career at Leeds and join the commercial department. So I would say it looks as though that probably now isn't going to happen for Danny, and Jamie's coming instead.
We'll have to hold that a minute. John, if you open the door, you're not allowed to say who it is, because it's a long-running saga on this show as to who's behind the door. Yeah, he's coming in. I mean, fair play to Jamie for coming. Fair play. You're like on 4020. You'd be like on the what was it, fantasy football. Who's that at the door?
Jeff Astle.
Yeah.
It's not the what's his name. It's not what the fella.
Thanks, Brian.
Jason Lee. Not Jason Lee.
Not Jason.
The man with the pineapple on his head.
He just said
you
it.
said that.
He
Now.
just said
You and Davey Badil.
Thank you.
I think the question for Phil is, if he's so bold enough to answer, is would Jamie Peacock have returned to Leeds if Brian McDermott was still head coach?
I think they did get on all right.
Really?
Yeah.
Can I?
This is a commercial position.
I know, I understand
So,
that. But was it other,
irrespective of the coach.
But was it other people such as A, Rob Burrow, B, Kevin Sinfield, C, Kylie Lulawai, who didn't get on with Brian McDermott?
There were people ahead of.
Said in a documentary that
Yeah. It is a bit of a. I think it highlights two things, right? It shows the scale of the operation at Leeds. Rob Oates does a fantastic job, because whenever the corporate's always full, let's be fair. And then you look at the facilities they've got now, they probably do need more people to help sell it. They've got more places to sell. It's going to be a bigger job. But he's gone from being rugby league, in charge of the rugby league at Hull KR, to being
that
the
is
commercial assistant at Leeds.
Yeah.
And I think is that a sign that he's maybe scaling back and he's doing other things? I know his speaking's going really well, but I just found it a bit of a strange one.
He
for
has
me.
connections in the business world that
Oh,
he's
of course
already
he does. Look,
exploiting.
like you said, he walks
with his
in,
talks.
people are going to be impressed.
And he's got an MA in sport business, as Kevin Sinfield has. So I think there is something that he can offer to that commercial department.
Oh, I'm not
I think
saying
the interesting thing is that I think we thought when he joined Hull KR in a rugby manager role, something that's never really been. What does rugby manager mean? It's different.
What's going on here? Hold on.
Hang on.
Hold on.
Hang on.
This is a bomb squad. They've come for Sid's present.
Oh, we need to open that in a minute as well, don't we?
We do. Oh dear. What's
We've
happening
got
here?
more.
Oh, Richard's got something.
Oh,
It's
right.
a vodka.
Brian's not happy.
It's a vodka. It's a vodka for the RSW.
Thank you very much.
Well, look, it's an interesting one. But I think what it does, instantly I thought, you got a head in late. It's just always full, isn't it?
I think
it's going to be amazing.
and part of what his role will be to entertain people on match night. And again, if you're a corporate partner and you've got Jamie Peacock standing up before the game telling you what he expects is going to happen, and I can see why the role would appeal to Leeds. I think it's a really interesting departure for him, having gone down the sort of playing side to now the corporate side.
The thing at Hull KR though, just wasn't really ever sure what he did, particularly if he was on the rugby side, and you've got Tim Sheen
who's not going to be told what to do.
Exactly, he's in the Wayne Bennett mould of I've been here for 40 years, I know the game better than I'll recruit and you know do it my way. It's my way, the highway, effectively. So
it was strange to think of the two of them and Neil Hudgell all working together, because there probably wasn't room for three
too
people.
many cooks. Yeah.
But I do think it's interesting that he has decided to relinquish that rugby role. But everybody who was involved in the England camp, again in the New Zealand series, seemed to say that that management role, the logistics role, nothing to do with the playing role, really quite suited Jamie Peacock. The players related to him really well.
And I guess we laugh obviously because Schoey goes, "Oh, I want to be the England manager," but he has been there. He knows what
You
players
command
need.
respect because
He
you've been there
knows.
and done it.
He
Yeah,
knows what
exactly.
they need. He knows what they should be doing,
Yeah.
what they shouldn't be
And
doing.
those
As a
players
player,
will-
what they don't want to do.
Yeah.
Those players will
I
grow.
think also
Yeah.
what's happened with him is very, very reminiscent of the way that Gary Hetherington worked. So Brian McDermott was sent to London to be a head coach in trying circumstances and then brought back. It's like Jamie Peacock has had everything he wanted in his playing career at Bradford and at Leeds. So go to Hull KR where perhaps everything isn't what you think. You know, build the gym yourself. Decide and tell us what the wrestling room should look like, and work in a very, very different environment. And then when you've got a more rounded education, we'll have you back. It's a very Gary Hetherington way of doing things.
Okay. Andy and Sue said 30 years old, unknown, untested Aussie coach must be a gamble. Neil says, how can you stop Championship sides recruiting Aussies when 7 of the Super League clubs have an overseas coach? Well, let's look at the Super League coaches. Tim Sheen's got I'd say
World Cup winning coach.
tried and tested. Possibly would
Won
be
numerous grand final. I
yeah.
think probably him and Wayne Bennett have won more games of rugby league than anyone in the
Adrian
history.
Lamb.
I think he can coach, can't he?
Adrian
Oh,
Lamb,
a little bit.
as you said, been an assistant for a long time.
Under Wayne Bennett,
Under Wayne Bennett.
But
Club-
again,
former
he's-
club
Robinson.
player.
And it's going to change next
legend
year.
of the club.
Knows what he's coming to.
Yeah.
Furner, similar kind of thing at Leeds. Knows exactly what he's walking into. Wolford, you could argue in many ways, is a gamble, but an assistant.
I
you know.
thought Wolford was a gamble because what I'd heard from people in Australia, people who played with him, he obviously had a big ban for breaking a box in Queanbeyan, so he had perhaps a reputation as a short temper. The Knights New South Wales Cup team, I think, was second last
Yeah.
when he left. But look, what the job that he's done at Huddersfield.
Price
you
and
have to-
Holbrook. These are not guys that have just been plucked off, out of obscurity. And this guy has, and it's not. He might win the league. He might win the 1895 Cup. Are they allowed in that, Featherstone?
Yes.
Yeah. Are they in the Yorkshire Cup, the West Riding Cup?
Yes.
Oh, could win everything.
Silverware.
Could win everything.
Could be the treble.
Could win everything. If he does, well done to him.
I think it's more the principle, not the club. I think it's a different environment coaching at a part-time level over here. Be interesting to see how he copes with that over here. That's all we're saying. I think.
I think if you go,
Good luck to him, but
if you look at say Lamb and Price, and the same with Furner, they've gone from NRL clubs to top of the rank Super League clubs. So the facilities at Wigan and Warrington and Leeds are as good as most, or better than probably better than Manly, and maybe Cronulla as well. So it's not, as you said, a big jump in terms.
And
of...
they've most of them have coached internationally as well, so they've got a very rounded coaching education. So Lamb's been an assistant to Mal Meninga, Furner's been on
And
the
to
staff
Bennett.
at Tonga. So
We've got to move off Leeds, so we won't talk about coaches because we might not talk about Leeds.
Sorry.
So, it's...
I might be the first person next year to say.
Rob Burrows had a baby, by the way.
Yeah, congratulations to him. Yeah,
and a big moment for the Burrow family because there was no male heir, and there now is.
Yeah. And,
Is he taller than
I'm going to say we're pleased to say that baby is bigger than his dad.
I wonder how many tweets and emails he's had to reply seeing that over the last couple of days.
How far into the new season? Are Leeds at home first week?
Now they're away for first four games.
Four games.
It's a tough
So we're going to have to
start.
wait until 5-6 weeks into the season before people moan about the away facilities at Headingley. So that's good.
Although
You've got all your fancy stands at Headingley.
there was a hint emerging today that they are trying to do something with the Western Terrace.
Was that knock it down?
Contingent upon the owners of the houses behind. I don't know what that is, but it is being looked at.
Alan wants to know about Marwan Kukash.
Dr. Kukash.
Yes.
Buying witness.
A man who we need to keep in rugby league through all of his great success in the past by buying lots of rubbish players at Salford.
What made me laugh, he said, if we could have, if the salary cap stopped us having success at Salford, like, how much money do you want to waste?
You
how
cheated
much
the
money
salary
have
cap.
you
You
got?
were punished for cheating the salary
He
cap.
signed all these players.
And you were still
Yeah.
rubbish.
Brought in the marquee rule, and did Salford sign a marquee player?
No.
But they signed all these players, and then he walked away, and then from the goodness of his own heart, like Bruce Forsyth, you say, in a play card, you've been rubbish, but from the goodness of my own heart, I'll give you 20 quid. He said, even though I ran up those debts, I'm going to pay them off for you. I mean, what a man. What a man.
And buy Jackson Hastings before I go.
I think one of the funniest things
To be
I've
fair, that
seen.
did keep him in Super
Yes.
League.
One of
I'm
the
having a
funniest-
mince pie.
Good
One of
man.
the funniest things I've seen in Super League, it wasn't meant to be funny, but was at Salford after they were penalised for breaking the cap, and there was a press conference where Marwan got a whiteboard in front of a number of journalists and did the maths and we're all watching. At one point, Angela Bowers from Sky was back said, "Oh, that's wrong. You know, the arithmetic was wrong," and it was, it was funny. It wasn't trying to be, but it was.
It's only down the road from Media City where they make Countdown. They got Rachel Riley into the for him. Oh, Dr. Cook. He's back, and it's Dr. Cook, because you might buy Witness, which will
What happened to the Cumbrian Lakers? They were.
Come on, he doesn't say things and not follow through. All those Witness fans, by the way, have been moaning about James Rule and stuff. Yeah, I know, but be careful what you wish for.
Been seen having dinner with 2 other people that were interested in buying Widnes is what we know, and unless anybody's heard anything else, would be interesting. I mean, he lives in Liverpool. Is it Liverpool?
Yeah,
he's got a hotel in Liverpool, so it would fit geographically with what he's doing. There's still this hint that he wants to buy Bradford, that he can see the potential in the Bulls. Whether there's investment opportunities in Bradford, I don't know.
Is he going to be the same person who's going to buy Odsal from the shadowy cabal of Super League chairman, who might buy it from the RFL?
What would they do with it?
Fill it in.
Sell it off.
Landfill site.
You've got to love that landfill is more lucrative than actually using it as a venue to play.
Fill it in, sell it off, and then Rob Elston can have some stuff.
Bring back the Dukes. Bring back the Bradford Dukes. So Speedway's on the way up, lads. I'm getting in now.
There was no Speedway on Sports Personality.
Speedway podcast.
Not a single
everything.
bike.
You should be the new CEO of British Speedway, Rich.
They're reading Speedway fans. They're as annoyed as rugby league fans with the way their sport's been. And it's never a dig at Speedway, because obviously it was a very popular sport and isn't quite the same.
Again, forgive me, but isn't there somebody called Woofenden?
Yeah, Ty Woofenden,
who's won the world title 3 years running, and again,
never heard.
Never gets seen. Didn't get a mention on Sports Personalities. Sometimes we do perhaps overemphasise what we think our influence should be, where there are other sports and sports people out there that don't even get the 52 seconds that we get.
Was it?
No, darts was...
And we know darts sells lots of tickets. Snooker.
Good book out about darts.
Yeah. Our Canadian
Lee,
listener...
can you buy that?
Our Canadian listener, Nicholas, he's saying he'll be in the
He's coming over. He's coming
over. July
over.
the 12th. He's going to have to decide where to watch his first ever Super League game in person. Can't decide where to go. Nicholas, let us know when you're coming.
Yeah.
We'll get you some tickets, and we'll come. Well, we won't come with you. We'll give you the option of taking a legend.
Can you imagine?
I don't want to spoil your holiday, but let us know and we'll sort that out.
And instead of me sending you that programme over to Canada, I'll just give it to you in person.
Yeah.
Saves me some
postage. Save money where we can. We're an independent company now.
Get some more stuff. Company?
Well, yeah,
we're limited, that's sure.
Speak for yourself.
We are very much the North at digital of rugby league.
Tell Nicholas to go out drinking with Schoey just to bring his wallet.
Yeah.
And pay for every drink.
Roy says he should go to Whitehaven, but sadly they're not in the Super League. So
no.
Come to wait for Nicholas. See how rugby league used to be in the 1960s.
Yeah, I've been back.
Let's be honest, 1860s.
It'd be like time travel. I've gone back in time.
The gents behind the terrace, 1895.
The wall.
The wall.
Have you been to laid that brick yet? Anyway,
no.
Why have you not done that?
That's shocking, isn't it?
We could broadcast it. Rich laying the first brick of the new ground.
Well, when we do our live tour, which is coming up, by the way,
hey,
listeners.
yeah, don't joke. It's happening.
Come buy tickets.
It's happening.
All proceeds go to us. Well, we need to get some merchandise sorted for the shows.
Yes, we do. We'll do that. All right, calm down.
Well, we've got mugs.
We've got 4 mugs already.
Mugs.
Oh, cups, you mean?
Christmas
as well.
We'll do it then. We'll plant a brick.
We'll lay the foundation stone.
Where Super Bowl used to be, in the Wakefield Theatre Club, where all the stars used to play.
Super Bowl.
Yeah, Super Bowl 2000. I mean, in 1990, that was futuristic in Wakefield. But unfortunately, it's still called Super Bowl 2000 in the year 2000. Which we still haven't reached it.
Right.
It used to be called Wakefield Pussycat.
Okay.
In the 70s.
Toby wants to know, is Schoey being taken by the Hull fans? No, that'll be the 28th of January. Yeah. Last seen entering the Humber. Yeah, that'll be the thing.
With concrete boots.
Yeah. Jules says, go see the Benidorm flaps at Wake.
Flanty Squares. Yeah. Right. See where Michael Carter did that thing with his... John Key used to do that thing with his fingers.
Alright.
So Michael Carter going...
Who's got to open the present
Blobby.
anyway? Mr. Blobby's got to open it. That's
our friend Connor from the Wakefield media team doing that when we won the £1 million game. Can't remember who scored that try. He's been on telly.
We've been asked about the championship. We spoke a lot about the championship. Schoey has given his predictions. I haven't read them yet.
No. Just reverse them. In whatever order he's put them, just reverse them.
I'll be surprised if Barrow aren't down to win.
Toronto.
Sheffield will be in the top 3, obviously.
Here we go.
He's got a big picture.
Start at the bottom.
This was Schoey with London last year, wasn't it?
Yeah. So who's 10th on this list? That's
Batley.
Well, they're the
Well,
team.
it's 14 now as well, isn't there? There's 14
right.
teams in this
Apologies.
list. Yeah.
So go on, start from the bottom up.
Swinton Lions.
Made some good signings.
Martin Campbell will be happy.
Rochdale Hornets. They've signed quite well. Rochdale. They've signed some good players. Dewsbury in 12th. Sheffield in 11th.
They don't like Sheffield, does it?
I said there's a card and everything.
Yeah.
We like
10th
Sheffield.
Batley Bulldogs. 9th Barrow Raiders.
That's because of his love affair with Paul Creary.
He's managing it.
He's got them lower than he had them last year. 8 Bradford Bulls. Whew. Wow. 7 Featherstone. 6 York. 5 Halifax. 4 Toulouse. 3 Widnes. 2 Leigh. And 1 Toronto.
I mean, Leigh have signed 100 players, so who's their dual reg partners? In League One, you want to go on them. But,
So where do we think? Toronto going to come top? Are we happy with that? Or
Yeah, I think so.
I think the 6 signings that they've made would grace Super League. So there is evident intent there.
Okay.
Hard to back against.
I
it.
think the changing culture that Brian McDermott's going to bring.
That's
I don't think we'll see the grubby stuff that Toronto was known for.
I just think they'll win the games they need to win, which probably let them down a little bit last year. That when it gets to that point in the season where you've got to come up with a tactic to just win, Brian McDermott will do that.
Yeah, no, I think he could be probably the biggest signing they've made.
Yeah.
Mentality-wise, maybe that's just what they needed. I think that the top 5 is very interesting, isn't it? You could... I certainly think the top 8 is named there, and I wouldn't be surprised to see any of those 5 in the top 8.
I think I'd have Toulouse higher. I think they'll finish higher than 4th.
Okay. You think they'll be...
I think they'll probably be 2nd.
Right.
I think everything they learnt in the playoffs has stood them in great stead. I think they're growing as a club. There's a problem with their stadium still. Work was due to restart and it hasn't, which might hold them back off the field. But again, they've got a really good young coach who is melded into the culture there. They've signed a couple of players who I think will enhance the squad. They've got the experience of playing well against Super League teams in the playoffs. So I'd have them 2nd, I think.
I want to ask Glyn a question because he's corrected me. 17 players Leigh have signed, not 100 as I said. Are they the players you want to see at your club? Obviously you're happy with the coach, Glyn, because you said you like the fact John Duffy's come there. How are they going to, gel so quickly? Because you brought in a whole new team to me. Whole new team.
You can't bring in a whole new team and a new head coach.
I think they've recruited really well. Whether they'll be 2nd, if you'd have said to me a month ago where are Leigh going to finish, I'd say bottom half, definitely.
Yeah.
I think they'll be in the top half now. I think because they've got guys, and we said it before, they've got guys who know the level as well. I'm not saying they'll hit the ground running.
No,
but
they will need some time.
They will, and the fact because there are so many teams genuinely in contention, it might not need that many wins to actually get in.
I think the exciting thing for me, looking at those teams and the way they've recruited and some of the coaches that are coming in, I don't think it's going to be as obvious a 2-division structure this year.
No, I agree.
I think the teams that were at the bottom last year, the Swintons and the Rochdales and the Sheffields and the Dewsbury's, have strengthened.
Been sorted out yet? I know that's a daft question. Has that actually been sorted out?
It's a good question. Surely they should be
I've not heard
each
anything
getting
about that.
an equal share, whatever.
Well, I thought they were on about doing that rather than
that was
divvying it, top, middle, bottom. Everyone were getting a bit more.
Which would be handy.
Maybe we need to find out about that.
Glyn says he'll be better than last year.
I think Bradford will finish higher than 8th because the one thing about Bradford is they can play without pressure.
Yeah.
I think last year every single game was a cup final.
Yeah.
And
They were there to be shot last year.
absolutely, and that brings, no matter how good the players are, no matter how good the coach is, every week you know that you can't lose.
Yeah.
That pressure's gone a little bit this year.
I agree.
think the way, because of who they've signed, they're not going to be worried about relegation. So they can actually be the team that goes out and creates a bit of havoc.
And people say, "Oh, you sign more play." You might actually see a lot more from those that are there.
Yeah.
Because I don't think you can overestimate that. You know,
Absolutely.
you look at Toronto at the end of the season, players weren't performing as they should.
No.
Because there's pressure. You've got to win. You've got to win. Everyone expects you to win. I agree with that.
I think
I
they'll
think
be in
the
the
Bulls
top
will
five.
make the five.
Yeah, they might be fifth, but I think that.
Well, hey, it doesn't matter. You're in, aren't you? You're in.
And I think he's overestimated York. I think we really like what York are doing. I think moving into a new stadium will be great for them halfway through the season. I know that they themselves have said they need to do some more recruitment. It's a really big leap from League One up into the Championship.
They will be saying, as long as we don't get relegated, well, that is a step forward. It's
Absolutely.
another building block.
Yeah.
There's plenty happening.
If we
there
can move
that's
into
good.
our stadium and stay in the Championship, that's got to be our aim. So I don't see them finishing as high as sixth.
Well, Jules has said York will rattle a lot of cages this year.
They
no
will.
one's saying they won't.
They absolutely will.
You know, but
I think it's going to be tough for Widnes.
they're the one. I
You've
think
got players
I
who
would
played
back
in
them.
Super League who've never played in the Championship.
And I know Inu and Gelling are very good players, and I think that's a huge thing for them. But who have they, I don't. Forgive me, I might be being a bit ignorant. Who's playing at halfback?
Tom Gilmore
Craven.
and
Danny
Danny Craven, I presume. Yeah.
Right.
One would assume as well, should a Super League team be performing poorly at the start of the season, the first people they'll be looking to sign are the likes of Christian Inu and Anthony Gelling, and then you test Widnes' mettle with a bid.
I actually think Widnes will get in the five because I think they've kept a core of young Widnesians. They've got a coach with something to prove. I think they've got something. Again, the weight of expectation isn't huge because I think even Widnes fans.
I think it is.
I don't know expecting to be top two or top three.
Really? Do you think they do?
Yeah, I think they'll expect to be up there. And
I think they'll
you
make
gone
the
the other
five.
way. You gone the other way to Bradford. If they lose a couple early on, then all of a sudden they're the team.
I think with the change of chief executive, I think they've got some leeway.
Yeah, I'd go with that.
But I think they'll make
a long time.
I think they'll make the five, but I don't see them as third.
Okay. What about Halifax? I mean, we've all been waxing lyrical about Richard Marshall.
Nick says they're the dark horses. Rick says Sheffield are dark horses.
Right.
Everyone's dark horses.
Yeah.
I think Halifax have proved everybody wrong for the last 2 or 3 years. That the predictions that people have made always have Halifax just outside whatever system we're operating, and most years they've been inside that system that we're
I think
operating.
they'll be in the five. I think
Yeah.
if you ask me, other than Toronto and Toulouse, to name one I would back, it would be them.
I think losing Adam Tangata is a blow.
Yeah, it is.
Which makes Widnes stronger. But I think, again, that Halifax know the type of player they want. They're bringing in guys that fit a certain mould. I think the environment there is a really positive one. So, yeah, I wouldn't rule out Halifax being in the five.
I tell you what, Schoey has picked this league, and it's very tight in terms of the fixtures at the Summer Bash as well, because you've got Rochdale versus Swinton, he's bottom two, Batley and Dewsbury. You finished.
I think that's the 27th time
It
they
is, I
by
can't
the time
wait.
they get to the Bash.
Toronto, Toulouse, York, Fev, Halifax, Bradford, Barrow, Sheffield, Lee, Widnes. I'm not trying to sell tickets because everyone's going to go to Barcelona anyway. Leave me plenty of room in the press box. Happy about that.
You get cake as well, don't you, at the Bash?
Cake at the Bash.
Plenty of room in the press box, Rich. You get the whole stand.
Oh, I know.
Holds about 5,000
Fruit
that
you're
stand.
taking out.
Looking forward.
Sit where you want.
Got a hotel just round the corner, so I can roll down there. But
After you won Blue Wicked.
yeah, trying to nick one of those big sticks of rock that they give the man match.
John says it'll be more interesting and competitive than Super League again. Look, I'm looking at those top 8, and we can't say with any certainty Barrow, Batley, Sheffield, Dewsbury, even Rochdale and Swinton, with who they've got, can't force their way into the top 8. I think it is wide open. I think that I think that's good. I like it.
Yeah. I think that division looks more competitive than it has for the last couple of years, because I think that every week you are going to have the potential for a shock fixture.
Yeah,
which is what we want.
What you want is meaningful games, and there are going to be meaningful games every week.
But who's going to watch it? How are they going to see it?
In person, buy tickets.
Yeah, buy a ticket, get yourself down.
Because I think it's been announced today that Premier are not carrying Toronto games next year.
Why is that?
Now, are the because Premier just take a feed from Canada, so are the Canadian broadcasters still taking the games?
Well, Sky have the championship rights, don't they? So presumably they're not allowed championship
Maybe they
games
could
to
have
be.
been able to renew.
Well,
the deal.
apparently Neville Smith, who we spoke about, was it last week or the week before?
Maybe the week before, yeah.
The guru of Sky, since particularly the inception of Super League, who we reported was leaving his post at Sky, is setting up as an independent production unit who will be filming rugby league. And it may well be he wants Toronto as part of the portfolio that he will be offering.
His email address. I was on the BBC once. Keyword there once, never again.
Hey, for the record view.
Record views.
Record view.
Yeah.
Bought a
Nothing-
jacket specially, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, nothing.
Wore a tie,
You'd have looked great in your Valdunican top that you
Me-
bought
me
from.
orange,
from
Panama
Blackburn.
hat
Saved up
you
for
had,
Christmas.
didn't you?
He looked very good.
He did.
I was in the south of France watching that, and
You thought that was his brother, didn't you?
I was on the website. I
His
watched
evil
it.
twin.
He got an alarming amount of interaction from my colleagues asking if Richard had sold his soul.
Yeah, which
Yeah.
he clearly had.
I would say it must be bordering on 30 messages. Has Shaw Wright sold his soul? That's what the question
Which
is.
Who did we
clearly
used to
did.
work for? We used to work for Ken Bates. You remember? Not too long ago. You remember? We used to work for Ken. Uncle Ken, bad Santa himself. You pay me money, I'm gonna, I'll dance.
He had a nice Christmas party once, though, didn't he, Ken?
You choose the tune. I'll dance if you're paying the money.
Are we having a Christmas?
We've been asked that. Yeah, we are. We just need to. We were.
Well,
We were having a bit of a
January.
meeting here. We're going to have it on Thursday, but I can't because I've got to go to a funeral, so I can't go. So we'll have to arrange another time. We will have one though.
Friday in the pub.
Well, whatever, we'll sort it out. Yeah, we'll sort it out.
Widnes's big advantage, of course, is their pitch because everyone moans about the pitch.
Well, they've had a
Been
new
relayed.
But
pitch.
they've got a new pitch, but
Yeah.
now they've got a new one. Will that be less of an advantage because it's the latest?
I
technology?
watched a bit of the rugby union. Sorry, listener. Sorry, I know you don't like to hear that. You was watching it with you,
Oh yeah.
and they were playing on the old artificial pitches, and you couldn't tell, could you?
There was that indoor game as well in France. That was weird.
Yes. I watched the game in an indoor stadium. That was good
right.
in France. Yeah, that was Racing, wasn't it? Racing. That's enough
The,
rugby.
the, the Aussies would like that because you could turn the temperature up.
Yeah.
30 degrees. Optimum
Yeah.
temperature.
So the heating's brought when the Aussies come. Turn it off.
Oh well, I mean that's interesting news on Toronto and the future of their broadcasting things. And
What about the World Nines? Because John's written a interesting piece questioning.
Just asking questions, Phil.
Go on
I
then.
don't know.
What's
I don't
happening
hold
with
on,
the World
hold
Nines?
on.
Sorry.
Sorry, that's negative. You're not allowed to.
Sorry,
Apologise.
cheerleading about the
Apologise.
World
You're
Nines.
not allowed to ask questions, John. Sorry.
Yeah.
No.
Was it 9 questions about the Nines?
Go on,
Yeah,
then.
maths, as I said earlier, is not much fun. I think there was probably 11 or 12 sub-questions you could include them. But yeah,
Sub-question.
I'm just curious as to what the strategy... I know strategy and planning and long-term things are not our
It's been announced,
forte. Yeah.
but not
Hold
quite
on,
everything.
hold
Sell
on,
some shirts.
hold on. No, there'll be a chapter on that in here.
There's a
In
couple
Brian
of heads on-
Barwick's.
Forward planning.
I've looked
Hold
in,
on, hold on.
I actually looked in the index. There's Bruce Orto's in there.
Moving on, chapter 10. Oh, good. I'm looking forward to reading this.
pictures in
The
there.
Darkest Day. Yeah, well, I thought we'd have called it that, not you, Brian. Never mind. The Big Switch.
Missing the boat.
Missing the Boat.
As we have done on Women's Rugby League, yeah,
One day a month.
possibly.
Me and Match of the Day by Brian Barwick.
Not much in there when it was good.
The magic thread he has written about rugby.
Gerald
He has.
Finstad. And,
So, sorry, no, nothing about planning. No, sorry. Job's knackered.
I just find it curious. And I like Nines. I enjoyed the Auckland Nines watching on TV, but that doesn't exist anymore. Super League doesn't have a Nines competition. And we've also next year, around the same time, we've got a Great Britain tour that we haven't had for 12 years.
Well, we think we have.
Well, we think we have. We haven't got any fixtures yet. But we've also got an Oceania Cup, which is a completely new competition.
Which definitely will
involving
happen.
Well, supposedly. We haven't got any fixtures yet. Australia, New Zealand, Tonga, Fiji, PNG, Samoa. We've also got World Cup qualifiers involving Ireland, Scotland.
Been announced.
Yes.
They've got
Yeah.
dates.
There's a game in London,
They've
isn't
got
there?
dates.
Is it Greece and
Greece and Norway.
Greece, Norway.
Yeah.
Hopefully played. I think it's before London and Wakefield in the Super League.
Oh, well, I've never been to London to watch my apart from Wembley, so that sounds like a trip.
Can you imagine if Wakefield are
Greece and Norway,
playing and
yeah.
you're watching Greece and Norway as a
Michael
curtain?
Corkidas is playing. I'll have to take me Norway shirt. I'm sure Moscow Browns do one.
If they don't,
The
they will
official
by
partners
May.
of 4020 these days,
And International Rugby League.
and International Rugby League.
But I think the best part of the press release that came out with the Nines World Cup, I think, was Nigel Wood's statement was this will bring new commercial partners to the sport. And the sponsor of the first Nines World Cup is Downer, which, funnily enough, already sponsored the Auckland Nines. So they're not a new partner when they've already sponsored rugby league.
Why is the Auckland Nines not a thing anymore?
A number of reasons, but essentially it started off really well, and then all the clubs went, well, no, we don't want our... There was a few injuries, and we don't want our best players getting injured in pre-season, being out of season. So it became a bit of a farce, and...
A bit like the Nines over here when we had the Carnegie Nines.
Who's going to play the World Nines then? Because no clubs are going to let their players go.
Well, that was Todd Greenman's quote was the best players in the world. Well, it's 6 days after the Super League Grand Final, so I don't imagine any of the players, the 34 players who are in that Grand Final, will be playing.
Or the Great Britain squad. Because they'll be...
Well, I can't imagine Wayne Bennett will say, yeah, Sam Burgess,
But
Sam
will the Great Britain squad then revert to being England in the Nines? Because there can't be a Great Britain in the Nines.
That's what Wales will play next then, in the Nines.
Well, John Keir did tell me that he's not really a fan of Nines.
No.
Well, they can get a different coach. It's a different discipline. I'll coach them.
But
Sorry about lads.
the good news is
Schoey.
Just spread out, fellas. Spread out.
Play what
I'm
you
gonna
see,
follow
vision,
Sam, all right.
awareness.
yeah, run fast. The women might be going, England
That's
women,
good. Yeah, big fan.
but they haven't heard yet.
When is it again?
Next
October
I
18th,
mean-
19th in Sydney.
And granted,
Paramount.
not that we know what's going to happen in the future, but with international travel being the way it might be after March, it'd be nice to know these.
You
things
probably
in
need to
advance.
queue up in April to get to Australia. Halifax, by the way, great that they've got a women's team now. Joining the championship,
Good.
I believe.
Good. A club. A good club.
They've got all the things.
Great
they want,
wheelchair team represents them.
Yes.
Just need
Historically
TDRL
have been
got
the best.
Got the set.
Got the set, yeah. Excellent.
Nicola says David Argyle has claimed that Toronto are about to sign TV deals to show the sport in South America and Africa, in addition to the deals that already showed it in Southeast Asia.
The problem when you see the David Argyle quotes is that we can be seen in 150 million. Anyone can be seen.
Well, this
If
is
they're not watching the show, that's what ratings are for.
This is that great thing about the.
And what money does it bring in, or what revenue?
Well,
does
that's
it.
it. They're not paying millions of pounds.
You
to
can
show
watch this show everywhere in the world.
Yeah, exactly.
You can.
Apart from North Korea.
Yeah, we're
I don't know, I reckon
we are
you
just
can.
as unpopular in the Philippines as
we
we
are
are in
very,
Mark,
very-
you could say, I don't know what internet penetration is around, but 5 billion people could watch this show, but
We're-
unfortunately they don't.
We're big in Luxembourg.
That's the we've gone up again in the charts this week.
Have we?
Yeah, we've gone up to 378. But that's the argument about free sports. Yes, it's in everyone's house, but it's not. But no one watches.
Yeah. And ratings show that. That's the point of ratings. Yeah.
And now I've completely forgot what I was going to say. Oh, well, see, it's the rugby union argument, is it? And then they say 40 billion people watched the last Rugby Union World Cup, and they saw 5 seconds of it on their local news or on Channel World Sport. And they can't
Just as they reached forward and turned it off.
and dropped the ball on the line. And the crowd don't boo. Andy says, where's the Christmas decorations? Like with a Christmas jumper. Have you seen the mess on the desk? All these wires.
Yeah.
Mince pies.
Don't worry about
Oh, yeah. No, here you are.
We've got mince
Festive
pies.
mince pie.
Yeah, we've got some mince pie. I'll tell you what, if you don't eat that, I'm going to have that in a minute.
Have you
What's
had
happening?
yours?
It
Have you
is-
had yours?
Yeah, I have had one, yeah. I'm
That must
over
be
in
mine.
those.
Oh, yeah.
Christmas hat for Brian Barwick.
There you go.
I think that was
No
that-
expense spared, Andy. Look
that-
at that. No expense spared.
I think not the Challenge Cup final. Rich finding that book that's my highlight of the year. Yeah.
That's been on my shelf waiting for this moment.
You're reading
You
it
bought that.
every
You
I bought it
traitor.
from the pound shop.
You traitor.
You read it every
You
night
bought
to
it.
put to bed. Sends him to sleep every night, doesn't
He
it?
wakes up with Brian at his side of his bed.
Mark says, when are we going to put that book in the Blue Peter Bring and Buy sale? They still do those. I'll take it to the charity shop next door.
Yeah, they'll throw it out of the window.
Get rid of some in my clutter. Now, I bought some Atari games from the weekend in Blackpool, so I should have left it there instead. Probably worth more. Do we need to open Sid's present?
Yes,
yes,
we
do.
should do, really.
I've got a feeling it'll be a biscuit.
It has a nice message to us.
Does it?
Very small.
I'm guessing it won't be Canadian.
Thanks for 12 months fantastic rugby league coverage. What's he been watching? Have a great Christmas from Sid.
It's 4 rejection letters from the RFL. Sorry, lads, not this year.
Your media pass application has been rejected.
John's enjoying the show. He says, a bit boring this week, boys. Missing the legend.
Ah, come on, John. Eh? Tales of Schoey in his dressing gown.
Oh, hang on.
I would have been bought some sweets.
Chocolate.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a bit fancy, isn't it? Look at these.
Wow.
Look at
From
that.
Martin's Chocolatier. Alternative chocolate mince pies.
Ooh.
Ooh, that's
Thank you, Sid. Appreciate that.
See, how much more festive do you want to be?
How much more junk can we eat?
Plenty.
Yeah, correct. That is from the
I think
World
it's
Fish
great.
and Chip Eating Champion.
Was that this year or last year? I can't remember. That would have been a highlight. Great that we've opened these and he's not here.
Oh, that's true as well, yeah.
We'll just show him the box next week. Here's what you could be like bullseye. Here's what you could have won.
Here's what you could have eaten.
Right, what are we anticipating then? We mentioned earlier this story, the cast story, the Heathrow one. What's happening with this, John? What's your take on it?
I think the rumour is well and truly doing the rounds. I think Hull FC have denied it, but I think they're.
Why would Cass want Talanoa? Cass have got enough wingers already, haven't they?
Well, I think with Webster going and Jai
Hitchcock.
Yeah, so you've got Menikin who comes in plays in the centre, and then you sort of got a wing spot, haven't you? I mean, James Clare, is Agodo going? I think he's going, isn't he? So maybe that they want to strengthen the wing there. I think Talanoa is a good signing for them, but
Is Talanoa not quarter, or is he not a quarter player?
I think he's under the Colpack
It'd be a half
Pacific.
player.
Yeah.
Right.
But I think the best one, if it does happen, is Hull FC, because their forward pack, I think, is particularly in the front row, is a bit weak, and you put Ikehifo in there, gives them some real punch.
Okay.
Neil says Hull are getting the best part of the deal.
Yeah,
When
I thought Cass were getting the best bit of the deal, getting Ikehifo.
Well, that's what Lee said. He says, whilst we have a pretty solid pack already, and probably could do with the centre, I'd rather have Seb to cast over Talanoa. Never been a game breaker, and at 31 I might only get 1 or 2 seasons anyway.
I don't think Cass need more forwards at this point.
Okay. We'll see. I don't know. I just didn't see the whole Talanoa thing coming in.
But it's a surprise, yeah, because he's been there quite a while.
But is that why they have signed Dawson on the wing? Because they think, well, we'll
Also,
get rid of Talanoa.
They've got that glut, haven't they? So they've got short. Where does Connor go?
Yeah.
You've got Snake, Kelly, Griffin,
Yeah.
Ferramo,
You've got to give.
Tumavave. So one of those won't be playing.
Yeah.
You've got Cameron Scott now, who's just captain of the England academy,
Yeah.
that will be deserving of a chance at some stage. So
Yeah.
you could see why, perhaps. But
Interesting.
I don't know. It would certainly change the way Hull play, because they have used their big wingers as.
Well, they haven't replaced Watts.
Additional
They've
battering
admitted
ram.
that themselves, I think. Haven't
or
they?
Ellis, really.
But
Yeah,
the one thing we do know is that the stumbling block in previous transfers involving Ikehifo is the contract that he's on.
He's on a very big contract.
he's-
Yeah, but I understand Joe Waddle's not on a bad
yeah.
number either.
No, but you'd think that means Hull are going to have to. I would imagine that Ikehifo and Wardle are on more than Talanoa.
Okay.
So
Might make him a marquee player.
it's Mr. Pearson now living up to his word.
Maybe he is.
The week that Gary in here.
We'll see. We will see.
Perhaps we'll get entrance to his bar.
Jack Hughes has signed a new deal. I thought Jack Hughes was outstanding last season
Yeah.
for Warrington. He's signed a new long-term contract. That's good
Excellent.
news, isn't it?
Excellent. Again, captain of the England Knights. So you'd hope that that's the first step on his progression, maybe to. Well, he could go on tour at the end of the year, if only we knew that there was a tour at the end of the year.
What's happening to the Knights now then?
And what's happening to the Knights now then?
Now they've done their thing.
And what's happening to the Knights? Well, who are Wales going to play next year?
England Knights.
Jamaica and France. Well, that's who John Key wants to play. Whether it happens
and they
or not.
should do.
You should play for a trophy. I don't know what links Wales, Jamaica and France, but you
Bob Marley Trophy.
jump on the bandwagon.
I just look at I mean,
Usain Bolt.
is it a problem? You see, here's a question, right? Is Chris Chester, as Scotland coach, going to find it easier to get players to play this year, bearing in mind how many pulled out this year?
I don't think so. No.
But there is but next year there is a place at the World Cup genuinely at stake. This year it was, well, if we don't win this year, we'll win next year, so we'll be all right. And it's, I'll play next year then. I just wonder, will he find it easier? And therefore, will John Keir find it harder? Because they're already at the World Cup, and the guys go, well, I'd rather have a winter off and play next year in the World Cup.
You look at the Wales and Ireland, but Wales, Ireland, and Scotland squads this year compared to what they had at the World Cup, much weaker. Chris Chester said to me publicly, I mean, it's at the same time when we're talking about how great England and New Zealand is in international rugby league, and these Super League clubs stop these
Stop
players
playing.
playing.
Yeah.
So it's a double standard, essentially.
Wouldn't the Scottish players and Welsh players and the Irish players also have a chance of playing for Great Britain if they perform well in international?
They should.
Should have.
Yeah.
Yeah. They should have. Interesting. Look, I don't know. I mean, these are all things that need to be looked at, aren't
Absolutely.
they? And, we have got the fixtures. Are you sorting out the away days? Where we're going? Spain? I've got a game in Spain. Russia? I wouldn't mind going to Russia.
Yeah, Greece would be nice.
Greece would be
Or
alright.
Norway.
Greece, do you want to play at midnight?
Well, we're off to London then for Greece Norway. Look, I'm sure there is a radio station in London, London Greek Radio. We need to bombard them with rugby league content. Do we know anyone Greek who can? Well, anyone who can speak Greek?
No.
Terry Liberopoulos.
There you go. It's good
You
job.
just made that up.
No?
It's a good job. Scoey's not
A
here.
friend of
because he
ours.
talks, oh, I love a kebab.
Yeah. And other inappropriate comments.
Yes. Why are you not doing? Why are you not on
I'm
telly?
I'm stunned they did England Knights didn't send him out to get PNG.
Ray says we're missing Schoey as well. He says, how are we coping without him?
Quite
I think that's
comfortably.
Stephen in this
Quite
time.
comfortably, lads. Don't worry about that,
He's an
ladies.
inspiration. Stephen has asked me to get a signed photo of the team, and I know he's asked me this for about 3 years and about 4 different radio stations.
Oh no, we do because
But
he's
we-
ill. We said
Yeah.
we'd send
Well,
him.
no, we
one.
are going to solve, but obviously
Yeah, but
Schoey's
that's not going to aid his recovery, is it?
No,
No,
But
but
we'll
it
get
might
him
keep him
sorted.
away from the fire.
So I've not forgotten Stephen. I just need a sort.
Yeah, we'll sort that out for you, don't worry.
We'll do it at our Christmas get-together.
We will.
When we get
Yeah,
our,
which we're not inviting Schoey to.
No. Well, we'll just not tell him where it is.
if Super League or Championship sign TV deals to make the sport available to be seen, when it's being watched or not, does this also not bring in money from the networks, advertisers, or are they paying these networks to show the games? Asked Nicholas.
Advertisers don't pay money for things that don't rate. That's the whole point of TV
I think
advertising.
the really interesting thing that I found out last week was that obviously netball is currently being lauded,
and this is
and
a
rightly
yes,
so.
Yes,
and
but
everybody has seen that Commonwealth Games footage, voted it the sporting moment of the year. Netball has a Super League at the moment, which is in its infancy. Netball pay to be on television.
well, the sponsors of netball pay,
Yes.
and the sponsors of netball pay pretty much to fund the sport. It was interesting to read last week that I don't know if they've overspent or their budget has been used up quicker than they expected, and they are lauded. And the sports.
It's not easy.
We're in an interesting.
We again, as a sport, think that everything we put out there is going to be of widespread appeal. But the viewing figures would say that for the cost of production, they're not. And that's the same with every sport. Championship Rugby Union or lower league football. The cost of putting it on there is never covered. So who is going to make up that shortfall? Now, our governing body at the moment is in a position where it can't make up that shortfall. In fact, it's struggling to buy sugar for the coffee at the 11s at the moment, the RFL. And its budget is virtually negligible. So it's hardly going to invest in putting the Championship or League One on television if its resources are so limited.
Yeah.
We'll
And if
find
it's
out.
gonna-
Surely they could
and if
get
it's gonna-
some mug to pay 800,000 to go in the cup. That'd help, wouldn't it?
But they would be better actually putting money into the women's game because that's the easy win at the moment. That corporate
That's gonna
sponsors
happen, yeah. That's
are
got
more
to
likely.
happen. That's
Well,
got
you'd,
to
you'd hope so, wouldn't you?
And
8-team Super League. You've got regular fixtures.
Yeah.
I think you're building up towards a World Cup in 2021 where the women is going to have huge billing, quite rightly so. You've got corporate partners out there looking to invest in women's sport. There is clearly a market there that we don't appeal to at the moment. So if you were the governing body, you had very limited money to invest in production, you would put it into the women's game, I think, rather than the Championship or League One.
and they're all attached to recognisable brands. All the clubs in Super League are recognisable brands. And as we've seen with the women's football, with the demise of Doncaster Bells because of the introduction of Manchester City, because they've thrown money at it. And again, you'd ask about the
Well,
the
the
money behind.
women's Super League. You're not in it on right. You're in it if you're willing to stump up the money. And I think that was nearly £1 million. You almost had to pay an entry fee to be in it.
Yeah.
Where's the
And
money
that's why the Bells couldn't do it because they didn't have a backer. You look at all the other clubs; the majority of them have got big backers.
I'd ask the question, and this goes back to the coverage of the England Academy game on Friday. There's a crowd of 1,500 there, which is more than most women's Super League games get. And
That's more than most championship games
well,
get.
and that as well.
Here's a quite right. Well, not and again. This is maybe one we should direct to the RFL. But if you just said, I was in the pub with my dad. I opted not to go. It was a bit cold. I wanted
cold.
to go.
Do you remember winter?
I wanted. Yeah, of course I do. I remember standing at Thrumore getting absolutely
Wakefield witnessed
wet
the
through.
snow.
So you like
Yeah.
feeling your
Yeah.
toes, Mark?
Well, yeah, I do. Yeah, but I didn't go, and I watched it on Our League. Now, if it had been £2, would I have watched it on Our League? I probably would have done.
But I think you would have done because the appeal was England and Australia.
Yeah, all right,
Yeah.
maybe.
Would you have done if it had been Batley and Sheffield and you didn't support either of those teams?
Well, here's a thought then.
Because that's the
Here's a
international
thought, then.
cut through. I
Well,
think.
yeah, I agree with that. So here's a thought then. Do the RFL say, right, Our League member, why don't you pay £10 for a season? But what we're going to give you, there'll be 25 or 20 League One games on. We might have 10 from the Championship. I don't know if they can do that. I don't know, but that's what we're looking at. You can watch the cup final on. There'll be games they can chuck in there
Yeah.
to put in, and it's a tenner.
PDRL,
One-off payment for a
PDRL.
tenner, and you'll get in the England schoolboys, and you'll get the women's internationals. They'll all be on there. You can watch it. Is that where they need to go now? Have they had the rug? Their little slush fund that they had, and let's be fair, we all know they had it. They had a little slush fund that has been taken away now. They have got no backstop. They have got to generate their own money. Is this where they need to go?
That and Sky going along the road of looking possibly at a generic rugby channel.
But this is
If
being
they
pointed out.
if they feel that they can get sufficient people to pay £18 a month, is it 18 for if you want one specialist channel? If you want the golf channel or the football channel, you don't want any of the others. It's about £18 a month. So if they put out a rugby channel, would there be enough people who would pay? Now, I think you'd have quite a lot of rugby union people paying, because if they could get the NRL thrown in, if they could get Super League on a Thursday and a Friday thrown in, I think they would do it. I think there'd be resistance from a lot of rugby league people saying, I'm not giving money to watch rugby union because I don't like them. But let's assume there were sufficient people out there that would pay that £18. Then Sky suddenly need content. Does Sky then say, right, well, we are going to exercise our option to have some championship games. That's why we bought the rights, because it might not be the full 27 cameras and video replays and all that, but what we might be able to do, because enough people are paying £18 a month to see a rugby product, that we throw in the 20 championship games you're talking about.
But on the golf channel, on the Formula One channel, which are Friday to Sunday on the Formula One, Thursday to Sunday the golf.
Yeah.
Nothing happens the rest of the week. They just show on golf, on Formula One, and it's just content they've already got made ready for them, isn't it? And how much will it cost, as you say, to go film Batley versus Sheffield, compared to just sticking out an old game?
Depends.
Which they've got all. Sky have got such a great archive of stuff. They could
Yeah,
film.
yeah, true. And I think if they do go down that route, then will they only want the cream? Will you be watching, a rugby union game between a province in New Zealand and one in South Africa, followed by a Super League game, followed by...
I'm not sure what rugby union rights they have. Is it just the Premiership at the moment? Because they don't have the.
They have Super Rugby.
No,
Oh,
they haven't got.
But they don't have the. I think
That's
it's all
on
on
BT
BT. The
now,
European
yeah.
stuff's on BT. They've
Yeah.
only got the Championship
They've
and
got the England
Yeah.
games.
And obviously the England games.
But if they could
And
get...
the Championship.
Yeah.
They've got some
If
England
they could
games
get
are a big
enough
bounty,
people
yeah.
paying £18 a month, would they go out and get some rights to fill that channel?
Possibly. Oh, they've got sevens as well, haven't they? Forget which fills up a week.
And nines, they could have nines.
Could have nines, yeah.
I just think the RFL need to look at that. I think they now need to look at it. And this is what we said when they did the initial, and we were involved in the initial game, the women's game that got seen by record numbers, is that then they've just said, oh, we'll have everything on it. And I don't think you need everything on it. I think you need to say, look, this is the level we're going to do. This is a team we're going to have presenting it, or
The standard we want to...
Yeah, and that's how.
in
and this
terms
is
of
how you're going to do it.
With the best one in the world.
1,000 people at £10 is
Well, I think
10 grand.
I
They ain't got
think
now.
the European Federation are finding that as well, that there is a market out there, including people like Fox Sport, that have a 24-hour rugby league channel that would love to put live footage on during the night, provided it's of a standard. But if you can get Fox to pay some of your production costs because they know it's going to be of a standard, then you're starting to build up a portfolio of
Because
television
they've got
programs.
very high production standards,
Yeah.
and as Rich said, they don't have, they have 24-hour program, but it's not 24-hour original. There's a lot of old games that, like off season, it's just rerun after rerun after rerun.
Yeah, I don't know how much the RFL would have spent, or our league, or whichever department of the RFL would have spent on things like showing Yorkshire amateurs versus Lancashire, or whatever, with very little interest from the general public. As we saw with, people again are talking about bringing back the Origin game. It's a dead concept. It doesn't work It didn't work in 2003 or whenever it was. It didn't work in the 80s. There's a reason why it's been scrapped a couple of times. It doesn't work here. Because it works in Australia, doesn't mean it works here. You have a Challenge Cup in Australia.
Do we need more fixtures?
No, especially not pointless.
Loot fixtures?
What was the RFL tweet about the other day? Rugby League T20. Yorkshire versus the North West. What's that all about?
Yeah, I don't know. I saw that as well.
What's that?
Yeah,
KPW is a Wigan fan, and he pays £35 to £40 a year for video content. He'd pay another £25 if we get content from the RFL, if it's content of interest, as in academy games or internationals. And that's what people want to watch, internationals.
And I think, again, the academy game and the standard of it, and that international dimension it had to it, I think it has a cut through that. We're a very tribal sport. We exist on those rivalries, but because by the very nature of it being tribal rivalry, it excludes people from outside of that. We see at the Bash, don't we, that there are certain games that where there's a big crowd and Bradford are playing Leigh that will get an audience, but the number of times you can play Batley and Dewsbury to pick up neutrals is virtually minimal. You can't do that.
No one does.
Okay. Fair dues. So, anything what else is happening on social media?
Anybody missing Schoey?
A few people.
Only Schoey. Schoey's missing Schoey.
Gel Arts asks us if we've got any update on Salford's financial issues.
Well, I keep hearing rumblings.
They've changed the directors, haven't they? Or...
Yeah, they have. Yeah, they've shuffled the directors from the different holding companies. I've heard a rumble about that as well.
Right, that all is not well, or
yeah, but that was as far as it went.
What we'll say about Salford is their social media stuff has been superb.
Yeah, their stuff in the community.
Jackson Hastings has been fab for them.
They really have cranked it up. I
know.
Media, is it Adam there that's doing it now? And fair play, that is top notch.
I know a lot of clubs do some really good work in their community, and that is almost the literal foundation in some respects of our sport, that we are so linked with the people that support the game. But what Wigan do every year, I think is fantastic.
Yeah.
And again, talking of social media presence, all of the work that they did going round and painting buildings and in the early hours of the morning, great bonding for the players, but really good to put something back into the community.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I agree, and I think as a sport we need to remember that. I think we
are
forget
so
how important
grounded.
it is. Yeah.
And there's some great stories, and I think Salford have told some brilliant stories about turning up at a young fan's house who wanted to put his pocket money into the club, and he actually has Jackson Hastings and Joey Lussick knock on his door and give him a shirt and then take him to training. And I think Hastings went round and played FIFA with him the other night. With it, brilliant. These are wonderful stories that deserve a wider audience.
He's been a great ambassador for Super League since he's came in, both on and off the field.
But we know he's going to be here next year.
I don't think
you've got to enjoy. You've got to enjoy
you enjoy it exactly.
Yeah.
I knew Ben Barb wasn't going to. I knew Ben Barb wasn't going to be here for more than a year, but you still enjoy watching him play.
Absolutely, 100%.
And it'll be the same. We don't know all these Leeds lads are going to be here. Yeah, they've signed 4-year deals, but it doesn't mean they'll be here.
Same Seguiara.
Yeah, exactly.
Is he at Cronulla next year, or has he been moved on?
I think he's still at Cronulla. He's got a fashion label, Phil. You should be wearing some of the. You know the rules.
Yeah. Will they be selling it?
I don't do fashion. Clearly, I don't do fashion.
It just says Hull KR have some social media stuff too. Hull KR TV is also excellent. There's some good stuff out there. The clubs do some good stuff.
They do.
There's some do some good stuff. Some do not so good stuff. Curate's egg.
I think the message is getting through to the clubs, and I was speaking to a couple of the clubs, is that the more content they can produce and sell, why, if you're selling loads of shirts, why not try and sell the guy that buys all the shirts something else? And that's your TV, isn't it? And your associated
I think
products.
one of the people that Rob Elston has bought in is Lee Hickey, who produced the film As Good As It Gets. And I think, his brief is not to be something like a media manager, but it's to improve the overall image of the sport.
Creative director.
Yeah, to get the clubs to put out more content like we've been seeing.
And better content.
A better quality content. And I suspect that the promotional video, if we get one, will be very, very different this year.
The Brownlees won't be back?
Well, no,
I'd be stunned.
Toby's mentioned this. They were filming it last week, apparently, and there's no Brownlees in sight. But they were being rubbish at triathlon this year, so we jumped off that bandwagon.
Yeah.
We get back on cycling or something.
Tyson Fury suddenly decides he's
I think Tyson Fury's got some opinions that are probably in line with some rugby league players, but I don't
Rugby league is a family sport,
yeah,
Rich.
well,
is.
Well, this is the time, is it? Because we're seeing all this with certain football clubs and their supporters. We should be, as the season...
And the darts.
Yeah,
what happened at the darts this week?
That's those Hearns, isn't it? Seriously, they get blamed for everything in darts. Obviously, there's two organisations in darts, and all the people who watch the BDO claim people who go to the PDC events are like not proper darts fans. They're just there to get their faces on the telly and stuff.
And drunk.
Yeah. Because you never saw that in the 80s at the BDO when people chucked cans. And Eric Brustow in Scotland, that never happened. That didn't happen at all. Full cans, you pick it up and drink.
Yeah. Sounds like Lang Park.
The new 4020 is out. How hard is it to do those lists of the people we've lost this year? Because it must be difficult not to miss someone out. Because I know the BBC did their video last night, and there's a list of people on their website, which is interesting. Some of the people they missed out, which I thought, well, they work for the BBC and you've missed them out. But it must be hard to compile a list and make sure you've picked everyone out.
You tend not to do it at the end of the year and look back. You tend to keep it going throughout the year and as up to date as you can. It's just a respect thing, I think, that we need to remember. Rugby League Journal, which comes out quarterly, do brilliant obituaries, and I just think it's timely, at the end of the year, to reflect on the contribution of people that are no longer with us.
I was reading it on the tram in Blackpool. It was raining.
As you would.
Keeping entertained.
You went straight to the obituaries.
Yeah.
Cheer him up.
Yeah.
Just to check he was still alive.
He's in Blackpool on a tram in the rain reading obituaries.
He'd been reading Brian Barwick's bestseller and
yeah, actually, it was a better read than that.
And they had the heritage trams on this weekend. So I could have recreated the Alan Bradley moment. But,
Who did he play for?
Who would you have pushed under? Mrs. RSW?
Rita. one for the teenagers there. Yeah, Tom's got no idea what it's about.
No.
It's a legendary television moment.
Oh, it is. It is. Yeah.
I think people have, they've got to watch Derby versus Nottingham Forest, or Notts Forest as they're called if you want to wind them up.
Yeah.
But Peter, I think it was Andy who asked, "Is this are we here next week?" We might be in some form, but we won't be here live.
We won't be live.
So,
Not that we're live tonight, obviously.
We won't be here the week after because we can't be bothered. But we'll be back in January.
We will. Yeah. Bigger and better. Stand out for the tour. We'll be coming
Yeah,
out
where
to
we
see
going?
Yeah.
We've got a Hull. We're at Wakefield. We're trying to go to Lancashire, but we've got to wait passports and visas.
Can we get Steve
Brexit.
Westcott to knock up some t-shirts? 4020 live tour t-shirts.
Maybe. We
Hull,
can.
Wakefield, Leeds.
Yeah. Yeah, we could.
If anybody wants us to come,
Yeah, let us know.
we're open.
Yeah. If you've got to put a couple of chip butters on, we'll come round your house and do it there.
It's like the Rugby League Roadshow, but without videos and any wearing.
And we'll answer John Huxley, Daily Mirror
The
Roadshow,
Daily Mirror
Sunday Mirror Roadshow. Brilliant.
Cool.
But we won't take any questions on referees.
No, we won't. No, we're not bothered.
What do you think of referees?
We will have audience interaction, but we're not
Mr.
here to
Blobby will be at certain
Oh,
ones.
we can bring him, yeah.
We're going to bring him with us.
You know Ian Lee off the telly?
Yes.
Off I'm a Celebrity?
That Ian Lee.
He does like a live podcast, and he takes with him a giant roll of sellotape, and people pay to have their photo taken with a giant roll of sellotape. So that could be Mr. Bobby.
Is there any significance to the giant roll?
I've bought a giant roll of sellotape, and people want their photo taken, and then they give the money to charity.
There you go. Are you taking Mr. Blobby home tonight, John? Very good.
It's a little bit suspect him sitting on my lap, but anyway.
Aye, it does. John, thank you for your time and your
Thank you.
contributions ever. Buy the balls out every week.
Yes, we've got a new episode with the editor of 4020 magazine. Live from
Been getting
Adelaide,
some good
so-
How
feedback.
very
I've
incestuous.
noticed on your podcast recently.
Yeah, we've had some great guests. Carl Fitzpatrick, Brian Carney, Jackson Hastings, Damien Irvine,
Mick Hogan.
Mick Hogan, Mark Aston was
Forthright.
yes, forthright. That was the word I was looking for. Yeah, that's been good so far.
Good. Keep up the good work. We'll see you. Have a good Christmas. Phil, I'll
too.
see you very soon. Richard, as ever, thanks for coming in. Thank you too for listening. Download the old podcast, available at all the usual providers. I hope you have a great Christmas if we don't see you before. There will be some content next week. Thanks to everyone that's watched us in 2018, and here's to a very happy 2019. See you soon. YouTube, we've gone.
YouTube's gone.
Facebook, we've gone.
Facebook takes forever. That's the problem.
Can I have my flapjack yet?
Eat your flapjack, son. Eat your flapjack.
These look quite nice.